Chapter 1102. Seeing the spear flying towards him, Wang Yu stretched out his hand to catch it. At the same time, Nian Lian flew out and rushed in front of Wang Yu. She waved her right hand, and a handful of sand flew out. Sand toss, a rare skill of grandmasters of combat. Not only did it have a long attack range, it could also blind and slow the target. It was a rather despicable skill. As a grandmaster of combat, Wang Yu was no stranger to this skill. He calmly drew a circle in the air with his left hand, and a chi wave shield appeared out of thin air, blocking Nian Liuyun's skill. However, just as Wang Yu blocked the attack with his hands, Nian Liuyun arched her body and stretched out her hands. Leaving a trail of afterimages behind her, she slid in front of Wang Yu and pulled Wang Yu into her arms. As a grappler class, Flowing Cloud had no lack of grab skills. This sliding grab was one such grab skill that could be activated from afar. This skill had the fast-paced skill frequency of a grandmaster of combat, as well as the ability to teleport over a short distance. Coupled with the high priority of a grab skill, it was a very strong PK skill. Wang Yu was caught off guard and was caught by Nian Liuyun. If she had grabbed someone else, Nian Liuyun would definitely have followed up with a combo and died. However, Nian Liuyun knew how strong Wang Yu was. If there was a gap, he could escape. So after grabbing Wang Yu, Nian Liuyun did not cancel the skill. Instead, she tightly controlled Wang Yu. At that time, Glacial Jade descended from the sky and used Eagle Stamp to stomp on Wang Yu's head. Bang! With a muffled sound, Glacial Jade, who had stepped on Wang Yu, felt the ground under her feet disappear. Before Eagle Stamp could land a second time, Glacial Jade hurriedly stabilized herself and looked down. She saw that Wang Yu had exploded and disappeared. All that was left under her feet was a confused Nian Liuyun. Its doppelganger explosion. Get out of the way. Seeing this, Pure Ice Jade was shocked. She took out a great spear from her bag and stabbed it into the ground. Using the recoil, she flew backwards. However, before Pure Ice could land on the ground, Pure Ice felt a sharp aura behind him. At the same time, he heard a voice beside his ear. I knew you would fly backwards. It was Wang Yu. Before Pure Ice could fly backwards, Wang Yu had already arrived behind Pure Ice's landing spot. Pure Ice Jade didn't have any flying skills, nor did she know any Qigong. It was too late for her to change her flight path. As he spoke, Wang Yu gripped the great spear that he had just snatched from Pure Ice Jade's hands. He stood firmly in a horse stance, and with a shake of his arms, he swung the spear in a strange arc and swung it at Pure Ice Jade's back. Oomph! This time, Wang Yu had come prepared. Whether it was the angle or the strength, they were all perfect. Pure Ice lost her balance. Pure Ice in Jade was like a baseball that was sent flying. Even the sound of her chest could be heard. After flying a few meters in the air, she fell heavily to the ground. Big sister, compared to the strong Pure Ice Jade, Nian Liuyun's personality was more gentle, but she wasn't a pushover. Now that her older sister had been hit, Nian Liuyun's anger rushed her head. She leapt forward and grabbed at Wang Yu. How many times do I have to tell you? You can't play like this. Seeing that Nian Liuyun was still overly reliant on her game skills, Wang Yu sighed. He stabbed the great spear in his hand into the ground, extended his hand, and used Ferocious Tiger's strike to grab at her. Wang Yu had a tall and sturdy body with long arms and legs. Even though Nian Liuyun's hand was only a few dozen centimeters away from Wang Yu's hand was already on her face. Go down! Wang Yu shouted and exerted strength in his hand. Nian Liuyun was in midair when Wang Yu grabbed her face and pressed her to the ground. Nian Liuyun cried out in pain as the back of her head made contact with the ground. Then, Wang Yu followed up with a stomp and crushed her head. There was no helping it. Nian Liuyun's short legs were jumping around in front of big guy like Wang Yu. She was asking for it. By the time Wang Yu finished off Nian Liuyun, Pure Ice had already stood up. She grabbed her spear, and with a shake of the spear tip, she stabbed at Wang Yu from multiple directions. Seeing this, Wang Yu jumped back and kicked back with his right foot. The spear behind him flew into his hand. At the same time, he grabbed the end of the spear with one hand and turned around. His spear thrust out and stabbed back. Dang! 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 The two spears intertwined with each other, letting out a clear, clanging sound. With every clear clang, Pure Ice would take a step back. By the ninth step, Pure Ice's hands were numb, and she could no longer hold her weapon. At the same time, Wang Yu's spear tip was pressed against Pure Ice's throat. This is the Nine Dragons Cloud Searching Spear? Seeing Wang Yu's spear technique, Pure Ice's face was filled with shock. There was no other expression on her face. Everyone knew that every sect had their own unique techniques that were not taught to outsiders. For example, the Yang clan's 7 astral steps. This was a secret technique that only the Li clan knew. This Nine Dragons Cloud Searching Spear was also one of the 4 great aristocratic families' Li clan's secret technique. Even Nian Luyin, the only child, was not qualified to learn it, let alone outsiders. But now, Wang Yu was casually using it. How could Pure Ice not be surprised? Oh, Wang Yu was stunned. So this is the legendary Nine Dragons Cloud Searching Spear. I merely learned your spear technique and stabbed it back. What? Hearing Wang Yu's words, Pure Ice's mind was buzzing. She was completely dumbfounded. The so-called ultimate technique was naturally difficult to learn. The Nine Dragons Cloud Searching Spear was the Li clan's ultimate technique. It was even more difficult. Nian Luyin was already a rare expert among the younger generation. Even he did not have the right to learn it. It was clear how difficult it was. Listening to Wang Yu's words, this brat only saw it once and learned it. Not only that, the spear technique that Wang Yu used was even more refined and experienced than Pure Ice's. Whether it was strength or style, it had reached the realm of perfection. Just like the saying, one look and you'll know, one use and you'll be proficient. If she hadn't experienced it herself, Pure Ice and Jade wouldn't have believed it even if she was beaten to death, that there was such a talented person in this world. Motherf asterisk her, Pure Ice and Jade suddenly began to doubt life. But what Wang Yu said next was even more heart-wrenching. Wang Yu rubbed his chin. Even though this technique is exquisite, it's too complicated. It's not easy to learn. Motherf asterisk her, you learned it in one look, and you say it's not easy? Pure Ice clenched her fists. If it wasn't for Wang Yu's spear pointing at her throat, she would have gone to fight Wang Yu with her life. If I only kept the first and third spear, it would be much easier. Twin Dragon's Cloud Searching Spear isn't bad either. As Wang Yu spoke, he pulled the spear back from Pure Ice's throat and gestured a few times. Her family's ultimate technique was humiliated. No one could tolerate it. Pure Ice was about to retaliate against Wang Yu. But seeing Wang Yu's simplified spear technique, Pure Ice was once again dumbfounded. Chapter 11:03. Kung Fu was a killing technique, so it naturally had to be simple and practical. People who used the beauty of moves to evaluate a Kung Fu were all amateurs. As an expert, Pure Ice could naturally see that after Wang Yu simplified it, the Nine Dragon Cloud Exploring Spear's practicality and explosiveness were much simpler than before. And it was also very easy to use. In the Li family, the best fighter might be someone else, but the highest level of martial arts was definitely not the elder ancestor who created this spear technique. But Wang Yu had only seen it once, and was able to improve such a complicated spear technique. From this, it could be seen that Wang Yu's level of cultivation was even higher than the Li elder ancestor. Wow, how is this possible? Her outlook on life had been flipped upside down. Pure Ice couldn't accept it. She raised her spear and stabbed at Wang Yu. Wang Yu leaned to the side, and his left hand grabbed Pure Ice's spear and pulled it back. Pure Ice was dragged in front of Wang Yu. At the same time, Wang Yu raised his right elbow and hit Pure Ice's face. Pure Ice's body froze, and she sat on the ground in shock. This move was one of the most basic moves of Bajiquan. The most outstanding disciple of the Li family, holding a weapon, was defeated by an outsider using their most basic fist technique. How ironic. Hee. Looking at Pure Ice sitting on the ground, Wang Yu smiled faintly. You want to challenge me? You're still far from it. After saying that, Wang Yu no longer cared about icy Pure Jade, turned around, and ran towards the door. Pure Ice looked at Wang Yu's back with a complicated expression, her eyes filled with loneliness. Sis, are you okay? At this time, Nian Luyun and the others had revived. Seeing pure ice sitting on the ground with a blank expression, they quickly surrounded her. I still have my pride, Pure Ice said absent-mindedly. What? Everyone was stunned. Nian Luyun said anxiously. What did that one guy do to you? I'm not done with him. Enough. Pure Ice poked Nian Luyun's head with her finger. Stop bullshitting. Let's go. You're leaving now? Aren't you going to take revenge? Seeing that Pure Ice Jade had changed her mind, the shock on everyone's face was no less than when Pure Ice Jade saw Wang Yu use his 9-dragon cloud searching spear. For the past 2 years, Pure Ice and Jade had been aiming for this. If Wang Yu couldn't give her an explanation, she would probably be stuck with him for the rest of her life. Oomph. Icy Pure Jade shook her head in self-mockery and laughed. What revenge? She's not the same kind of person as us, so it's reasonable that she doesn't like me. I'm just thinking too much. Let's go. Pure Ice Jade Heroine was a proud and aloof person. In her eyes, only the strong had the right to choose. In the past, the reason why she was against Wang Yu wasn't because of something as cliché as turning love into hate, but because she felt that she wasn't any weaker than Wang Yu. Even if she wanted to break off the engagement, she had to say it herself. The one with the surname, Wang didn't deserve to treat her like that. However, now that she had seen Wang Yu's abilities, Pure Ice realized that she had been looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. For a strong person like Wang Yu, it was reasonable for him to look down on her. Of course, Clear Ice Jade's way of thinking was just using herself to measure others. The reason why Wang Yu broke off the engagement wasn't because she looked down on anyone. Clear Ice Jade's way of thinking where the strong ruled was indeed a little too simple and crude in this civilized society. But that was fine too. The knot in this girl's heart was finally resolved. In the future, she probably wouldn't come and provoke Wang Yu and the others. Seeing Pure Ice's expression as if she had seen through the world, Ji Shur-san whispered to Nian Luyun, Your sister's brain must have been broken by that bastard. I won't forgive him. Nian Luyun was furious. She turned around and was about to fight it out with Wang Yu. Pure Ice pulled Nian Luyun's ear back and said gently, Stop fooling around. I'll teach you 2 moves of the 9 Dragons Cloud Exploring Spear when we get back. For real? Nian Luyun's thoughts were immediately pulled back when she heard Pure Ice's words. For real? I thought I couldn't learn it. It's just 2 moves. You can learn it. As they spoke, they stepped into the World Alliance's guild teleportation point and disappeared in a flash of white light. At the same time, Wang Yu had also rushed to the entrance of the encampment. The World Alliance's encampment's defense was built with RMB. One could imagine how strong it was. The wizards were able to defend against so many people at the end of the world by relying on their advantage in defense. At this time, with the addition of other mercenaries relying on the powerful defensive equipment, it was not difficult for them to attack from above and fight against 10 enemies at once. Even Li Shui and the other girls could stand on top of the wall and throw down potions, and they could still resist the enemy's charge, let alone these expert players. After all, attacking a city and defending it were 2 different concepts. This was especially true in the game. The players attacking the encampment could not use the method of cutting off food and water supply to deplete the players in the encampment. On the contrary, the encampment had a teleportation point and a resurrection point that led directly to the main city. Compared to the players outside the encampment, they had more supplies. Even if the players died, they could quickly be replenished at the resurrection point. The players attacking the encampment could not do so. In a remote location like the World Alliance's encampment, potion replenishment was a huge problem. Now that the players died, they could directly resurrect in the main city. Apart from numbers, the attackers had no advantage at all. Although they had the help of Chuanjin's group, no matter how many tricks Chuanjin had up their sleeves, they still needed people to carry them out. Now, the people of the Quanjun sect and the people of the Apocalypse, one was showing off while the other was showing off outside. There was simply no way for them to work together. Even if Wuji had 100 tactics to attack the encampment, it would be difficult to implement them. Moreover, World Alliance had experts. Although the 12 constellations were not as strong as Pure Ice and Jade's group, they could still fight against Chuanjin. Chuanjin would be lucky if they were able to survive. They did not dare to hope for more. At this moment, a few of them squatted in a corner and covered their faces, acting as cheerleaders. Fortunately, these mercenaries did not know each other. Otherwise, with so many people in a mess, Chuanjin would inevitably suffer casualties. Brothers, get your weapons and charge. Kill this bunch of trash. Everyone shouted and spammed the guild channel. Damn, whole Windcloud is really rich. They actually turned their encampment into this state. Doggone, and the others probably won't be able to defeat them. Yeah, Wuji sighed, but this isn't the worst. There's something worse than this? Everyone looked askance. If they attacked another encampment and failed, they would still be punished for initiating a war. The defeated side would have to give up territory or pay compensation. The whole world of Windcloud was obviously a narrow-minded person. The end of the world was a thorn in the whole world of Windcloud's side. If the end of the world of Windcloud were to be defeated this time, it was likely that the whole world of Windcloud would suffer greatly. Chapter 1104. In Rebirth, the authority of a castellan was not that great. At most, it was similar to the guild leader of a large guild. The only difference was that there were more people to manage. Moreover, the players in the city did not listen to the castellan like a real guild. However, there was one thing that ensured the prestige of the castellan, and that was the right to use the main city guards. Players knew how powerful the main city guards were. Although there were only 100 of them in a main city, having these guards was equivalent to having the strongest army. No matter how powerful a player was, they would not be able to do anything in front of these main city guards that represented the highest level of violence in the game. The compensation for defeat was only a financial loss. For a large guild with tens of thousands of people, compensation was a small matter. However, if they offended the castellan, it would be a huge matter. The Apocalypse's base was in Heavenly Dragon City, and the players of the Apocalypse were the citizens of the whole of Windcloud. With this grudge, the whole of Windcloud would have to think twice if they wanted to survive in Heavenly Dragon City. After all, there was a difference between living under someone else's authority and being one's own master. With the whole of Windcloud in their hands, it would only take a single word for them to do anything to the Apocalypse. After all, since ancient times, rebellious bandits never had a good ending. TSK, TSK, TSK. Hearing Wuji's words, everyone clicked their tongues and sighed. Damn it, not only did you teach the whole of Windcloud a lesson, but you also ruined the Apocalypse. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Old dog Wuji, you're really a beast. Wulsh *T, Wuji said angrily. I'm not that kind of person. I didn't expect the whole of Windcloud to be so resilient, to be able to block so many people from the Apocalypse. Then what do we do now? Are we just going to leave? Everyone curled their lips and asked. As the saying goes, when 2 tigers fight, one is bound to be injured. The battle between World Apocalypse and World Alliance was so intense that it couldn't be stopped so easily. Unless there was a guild whose strength far surpassed that of the 2 guilds, it would be impossible to stop it. These people from Chuanjin could easily incite others to fight, but they were really amateurs when it came to mediating. They couldn't possibly ask the archers to perform a halberd shooting. Without an overwhelming advantage, even if he performed Ho-E shooting the sun, no one would care. Moreover, this matter started because of Chuanjin. If they were to stick their necks out, the first to die would probably be Chuanjin's men. Wuji coldly snorted and said, Doggone is benevolent and righteous. We can't be villains. We have to return this favor. But how are we going to pay it back? Everyone was helpless. Wuji's words were very reasonable, but who could control the current situation? For a moment, everyone was at a loss. If he retreated, he wouldn't be loyal. If he advanced, he would be helpless. Everyone played the game for the sake of loyalty. If he didn't even care about loyalty, it would mean that he had thrown away his bottom line. Such a person wouldn't have any friends even in the game. Of course, it wouldn't be difficult if the Apocalypse world was strong enough. Wuji and the rest had already planned it out. As long as Dugu Jiuqiang could bring people to break through the encampment, they could capture the whole of Wind Cloud once again and strip him naked. However, now that the apocalypse had captured the whole of Wind Cloud, they couldn't even enter the encampment. What else could they do? Bang! Just when everyone was at their wits' end, a thunderous boom rang out as a burly figure suddenly descended from the sky and landed on the Wall of World Alliance's guild residence. The figure's feet created a circle of white light as he stepped on the wall. F***CK, it's old Cow. He took care of those Kung Fu guys so quickly. Seeing the descending figure, the Chuanjin members were stunned. As players who had fought with Pure Ice Jade's group before, the Chuanjin members knew how difficult it was to deal with Pure Ice Jade's group. However, in just a short while, Wang Yu had already taken care of those troublesome fellows. F***CK, he really wasn't human. Wang Yu's sudden descent shocked not only Chuanjin's group, but the mercenaries under the whole of Wind Cloud were also shocked. They quickly raised their heads and saw Wang Yu standing on the wall with an unfriendly expression. Seeing this terrifying face, everyone retreated as if their tails had been stepped on. Everyone, don't be afraid. Wang Yu waved his hand when he saw that the mercenaries were afraid of him. With an indifferent expression, he said, "My target is only the whole of Wind Cloud. The rest of you can leave." Hearing this, the mercenaries looked at each other. Then, they looked at the whole of Wind Cloud and the 12 constellations behind them with awkward expressions. Everyone was just trying to make a living. No one wanted to provoke a demon like Wang Yu. However, as a mercenary, credibility was the most important thing. If they did not do what they were paid to do, how are they going to survive in the game in the future? This was especially true for the mercenaries of the free cities. If they threw their boss out just because they were afraid of death, not only would their own reputation be ruined. If they really did that, they would be hunted down by all the mercenaries for both factions. They were just trying to make a living. How could they lose their jobs because of some experience points? Not retreating, seeing that the mercenaries had no intention of leaving, Wang Yu frowned and asked. It was difficult for two fists to fight against four hands. Even a hero could not fight against so many people. In this kind of terrain, if the mercenaries really wanted to go against Wang Yu would not be able to gain much of an advantage with so many well-equipped players. Right now, the mercenaries were only frightened, which was why they seemed weaker. Wang Yu was not an arrogant person. He naturally understood this point. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to fight the mercenaries directly. The mercenaries did not speak, nor did they move. It was obvious that they were silently resisting. Facing the fiendish Wang Yu, Feng Tianxia hid behind the 12 constellations and weakly shouted, "The one with the surname. The one with the surname Tai. I have no enmity with you in the past. Why are you targeting me?" "Targeting you?" Wang Yu sneered. "Did you get someone to capture the people from Chuanjin?" The whole of Wind Cloud was speechless. The whole of Wind Cloud was not aware of the conflict between Crystal Jade and Wang Yu. However, it was true that they were funded by the whole of Wind Cloud to capture the people from Yu Huicheng. They stole my equipment first. The whole of Wind Cloud thought for a while and explained. It seemed like the whole of Wind Cloud was really afraid of Wang Yu. If it was someone else, with the whole of Wind Cloud's temper, he would not have bothered to explain himself. Firepower was justice. Wang Yu sneered. "Let's not talk about whether the people from Chuanjin stole your equipment or not. My wife did not offend you, right? Why did you capture her?" Your wife? Who is it?" The whole of Wind Cloud was dumbfounded when he heard Wang Yu's words. The people who were captured from Chuanjin were all men. Could it be that this person had that kind of hobby? A level 15 knight. Chapter 1105. The rope tied to Mu Zixian had been cut, and she would automatically leave the battle after 20 seconds. The players who were forced to go offline would automatically go offline as well. However, in all honesty, it was Pure Ice's idea to kidnap Mu Zixian. After all, Mu Zixian was Wang Yu's wife. Even if Wind Cloud World was given 100 guts, he would not dare to do so. Wind Cloud World did not even have any impression of Mu Zixian. He turned to Rat and asked, "Is there the person he mentioned?" "This." Rat thought for a while and said, "There's indeed a female knight." F***ck me. Wind Cloud World said in horror. Then what should we do? Although Wind Cloud World did not know Wang Yu's temper, no one would be able to take it lying down after kidnapping someone's wife for no reason. Moreover, they were facing a demon. Blood would flow like a river. Sigh. Rat sighed. We can only sacrifice the rook to save the king. Wind Cloud World was stunned and asked, what do you mean? Return to the city. Rat whispered to Wind Cloud World. He then pointed at Wang Yu and ordered the mercenaries, get into formation. Following Rat's order, the mercenaries pulled into formation and set up a shield formation to confront Wang Yu. There was no other way. Since the boss had spoken, they had to fight no matter how much they did not want to. Seeing that the mercenaries were ready for battle, Wang Yu knew that he had to fight. He held his shield and rushed forward. Attack! At the same time, Rat also gave the order to attack. In a split second, the sky was filled with magic arrows that smashed towards Wang Yu. No matter how strong Wang Yu was, he was not immortal. Facing the attacks of hundreds of people, he could only defend himself despite having a divine weapon in hand. Under the continuous attacks of the mercenaries, Wang Yu retreated as he fought and found cover. Only then did he not get beaten to death. However, Wang Yu was also forced into a corner and could not move forward. Although Wang Yu was successfully repelled, the mercenaries were not in a good mood. Damn, he's not dead? Seeing that Wang Yu was still alive and kicking under the attacks of so many people, everyone's hearts were broken. That was an attack from a few hundred players. There was a boss standing on the other side, and it had died. Was this guy really a player? At this moment, the whole of Wind Cloud took advantage of the fact that Wang Yu was trapped in a corner to sneak into the depths of the encampment under the protection of the 12 constellations. Wuji, who had been watching the battle from afar, was startled when he saw Heavenly Wind Cloud trying to escape. Not good. Whole of Wind Cloud wanted to sacrifice the rook to save the king. Go and help old cow. Although the mercenaries were temporarily suppressing Wang Yu, there were still tens of thousands of World's End players attacking the encampment. Currently, with Xuanzhen causing trouble internally and powerful enemies attacking externally, the whole of Wind Cloud knew that they had lost their momentum and their base was in a precarious situation. Rather than being captured and humiliated in the resurrection point, it was better to abandon the guild residence and return to the city. After all, there were guards in Heavenly Dragon City, and anyone could only flee at the mere sight of them. As the core leader of the 12 constellations, Rat's strategic foresight was quite impressive. However, he neglected the existence of Wuji. With such an obvious situation, how could Wuji not see it? As Wuji spoke, he waved his hand and gave Mingdo an invincible buff. Mingdo's figure flashed, and he appeared not far away from the mercenaries. He started to bombard the mercenaries' formation. Mingdu's magic damage was extremely high, and the mercenaries' formation was instantly destroyed. At this moment, Wuji pointed at the whole of Wind Cloud and shouted, "Old cow, that bastard is trying to escape. We'll hold him back. You go and catch him." As he spoke, the Xuanzhen members swarmed forward and fought with the mercenaries. As Wang Yu held back the firepower, there was no one guarding the encampment. At this moment, Dugu Jiuqiang finally broke through the encampment's gate, and the World's End players swarmed in. Originally, these mercenaries could still block the gate and guard it. However, Wang Yu's appearance weakened everyone's morale, and Mingdu's bombardment caused everyone's morale to plummet. Now that the World's End had invaded the encampment, and their boss had slipped away, everyone's morale dropped. Although they were still stubbornly resisting, it was only for the sake of money, and they could no longer form an effective fighting force. At this moment, Wang Yu also activated his Qin Gong, and with a few leaps, he landed beside the whole of Wind Cloud. Stop him! In a panic, the whole of Wind Cloud ordered the 12 constellations. The 12 constellations blocked in front of Wang Yu without a care for their own safety. Among them, the shield warrior, Tiger, raised his shield and charged over. Wang Yu, who was moving forward, leaned to the side and dodged the Tiger's charge without slowing down. When Tiger saw that Wang Yu had dodged it, he immediately canceled his charge and turned around to slash. Wang Yu reacted quickly, and before Tiger could turn around, he had already extended his hands and used his knee strike skill to grab Tiger's belt from behind. He then grabbed Tiger and threw him into the 12 constellations. As a shield warrior, Tiger's body was rather clumsy. In addition, Wang Yu's throw was accurate, and the 12 constellations were instantly smashed to the ground. However, Wang Yu did not slow down because of the obstruction of the 12 constellations. When the 12 constellations were smashed to the ground, Wang Yu had already rushed to the back of the hole of Wind Cloud. With a slap of his left hand, a white light swept towards the hole of Wind Cloud. In the blink of an eye, the hole of Wind Cloud whistled, and a black dragon appeared behind the hole of Wind Cloud, blocking Wang Yu's cloud grasp. Wang Yu's eyes narrowed, and a chi wave was thrown under the black dragon's crotch, hitting the hole of Wind Cloud's head. With a flash of white light, the hole of Wind Cloud reappeared at the resurrection point. After the resurrection, the hole of Wind Cloud wiped the sweat off his forehead and jumped into the guild's teleportation point. The hole of Wind Cloud left, and the black dragon also disappeared in front of Wang Yu. Looking at the disappearing figure of the hole of Wind Cloud, Wang Yu coldly snorted, "Don't even think of escaping from my hands." F***CK. Just as Wang Yu was gloating over the fact that he had killed the whole of Wind Cloud, Wu Ji could not help but shout, "Old cow, why did you kill that bastard?" To keep him alive for the new year? Wang Yu was stunned for a moment, and then asked, Thank you, God Ox, for your help." Seeing that the whole of Wind Cloud had escaped, Rat laughed at Wang Yu, and then shouted, "The boss is safe. Everyone, follow me." After saying that, Rat led the mercenaries into the guild encampment. Seeing that the whole of Wind Cloud's underlings had retreated, Wang Yu was once again dumbfounded. "What's going on? What's going on?" Wu Ji anxiously said, "Didn't you see that they no longer intend to keep this encampment? Once they return to Celestial Dragon City, we won't be able to kill them anymore." "Oh, I thought it was something serious." Hearing Wu Ji's words, Wang Yu came to a realization and said with a smile, "Even if they return to Celestial Dragon City, they won't be able to escape. There are guards in Celestial Dragon City. Don't tell me you can find a group of guards too?" Wu Ji curled his lips and asked. Chapter 1106. Old cow, are you sure? Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone revealed doubtful expressions. No one could deny that Wang Yu was strong. However, no matter how strong he was still a player. Compared to the guards, there was still a huge difference. Even if Wang Yu had the identity of Castellan Yu Huicheng, he could not possibly order the guards of another main city. That was illogical, all right? Wang Yu smiled and said, "Of course I'm sure." Following Wang Yu's words, a system announcement rang in the sky. Announcement: Castellan Yu Huicheng, Iron Ox, has declared war on Heavenly Dragon City. This is the prelude to the conquest of the world. Seeing the system announcement, Chuanjin and the others immediately reacted. As the only players who had experienced a city war, Chuanjin and the others naturally knew the rules of city war. A city war was a battlefield for the players. As the third party, the guards did not have to work during the siege. Otherwise, there would be no need for the players to defend the city. As long as the guards guarded the 4 gates of the main city, even if the Celestial King or the Demon King descended, they would not be able to enter the city. The reason why Fengyun Tianxia and the others chose to return to the city was because they planned to rely on the guards' advantage to deal with Chuanjin and the players of the apocalypse. However, Fengyun Tianxia did not expect that Wang Yu would declare war on Heavenly Dragon City and give all the guards a day off. The announcement was repeated 3 times in the system. Instantly, all the players who were still online at this time were stunned. Damn, could this be the legendary siege war? Who would have thought that there would be such a good show in the middle of the night? Instantly, the sleepy players woke up and started gossiping. When the players of Heavenly Dragon City received the news, they were dumbfounded. Why would someone suddenly attack the city? It was too sudden. At this moment, the players of Heavenly Dragon City started to discuss the city that suddenly declared war on Heavenly Dragon City. Damn, someone has declared war on us. Speaking of which, Why does Yuhuicheng sound so familiar? Of course, it's the city that resisted all the attacks from the Light faction. You know Iron Ox, right? He's the world's #1 Grandmaster of Combat. I heard that he can massacre an entire city by himself. The players of Heavenly Dragon City gasped when they heard that their opponent was so fierce. Normally, at this time, most players would have gone to bed, except for those who stayed up all night. Moreover, Sky Dragon City had just experienced a massacre. There was a severe loss of players. Originally, there were hundreds of thousands of players, but now there were less than 100,000, and most of them were the kind that could not be moved. Now that they heard that their opponent was a powerful opponent like Yuhui City, Heavenly Dragon City's players could not help but panic. This was especially so for the players who had just invaded the World Alliance. They were completely dumbfounded when they saw the announcement. This situation was completely wrong. He was helping the Quanjin sect deal with the World Alliance. Why did the Quanjin sect suddenly make such a move? Didn't this mean that everyone was a traitor? The game was different. They were helping Chuanjin to deal with Heaven Alliance. Why did Chuanjin suddenly do this? Were they traitors? The game was not as harsh as reality. There were not many ways to force someone to betray them. It was embarrassing to be a traitor in a game. He rushed to the front, pointed at Wuji, and scolded, "Old dog Wuji, I helped you deal with the World Alliance, but you backstabbed me?" He rushed to the front and pointed at Wuji. "Old dog Wuji, I helped you to deal with Heaven Alliance, but you backstabbed me?" "Are you blind?" Wuji retorted. "How would you know that I backstabbed you?" Dugu Jiuqiang looked in the direction that Wuji was pointing at and saw Wang Yu. Instantly, Dugu Jiuqiang's heart sank. His anger subsided. He said carefully, Nio Shun, this is against the rules." "Against the rules? Why is it against the rules?" Wang Yu raised his eyebrows. 9 Dugu Spears said, "No matter what, I'm still a member of Heavenly Dragon City. No matter how fierce the fight between me and World Alliance is, it's still an internal conflict in Heavenly Dragon City. You stirring things up like this is very damaging to our guild's reputation." Indeed, the Apocalypse and Heaven Alliance were both guilds of Heavenly Dragon City. They were like brothers. No matter how much they disliked each other, it was their own business. If an outsider came to mess things up, they had to work together to deal with the outsider. Otherwise, they would be looked down upon. It was obvious that as long as Heavenly Wind Cloud fanned the flames, the Apocalypse's reputation of pulling an outsider to snatch their main city would be established. At that time, the Apocalypse's reputation would be tarnished. Traitors would never have a good ending. "Oh, you're talking about this matter. It's simple." Wang Yu smiled. "My goal is to teach Heavenly Wind Cloud a lesson. I'm not interested in your Heavenly Dragon City." Wang Yu was not good at socializing, but he was also an intelligent person. His mind was very clear. How could Wang Yu not understand Dugu Jiuqiang's meaning? If Wang Yu and his group defeated the Heavenly Wind Cloud with Dugu Jiuqiang's help and took Heavenly Dragon City, Dugu Jiuqiang and his group would become heartless and dishonorable people. However, their goal was to take care of the Heavenly Wind Cloud and not in Heavenly Dragon City. Compared to Dugu Jiuqiang, the Heavenly Wind Cloud was just a nobody in Heavenly Dragon City. If this nobody suddenly became the city lord, there would definitely be a lot of people who would not accept it. Therefore, it was reasonable for Heavenly Wind Cloud to oppose it. As long as Heavenly Dragon City did not fall into the hands of an outsider, it would be a different story. For example, with the help of Chuanjin, Dugu Jiuqiang annihilated the city robbers. Heavenly Wind Cloud took over Heavenly Dragon City. This could also be considered a good story. Really? Hearing Wang Yu's promise, Dugu Jiuqiang was overjoyed. Of course, Wang Yu nodded. You should have been the city lord. However, Heavenly Wind Cloud succeeded in some matters. That's great. Dugu Jiuqiang clenched his fist, but he quickly became dispirited. We are obviously not enough to attack the city. Wuji snorted. We walked around your Heavenly Dragon City during the day. It's obvious that there are fewer people than the other main cities. Dugu Jiuqiang said embarrassedly. Didn't Heavenly Dragon City just get massacred? Almost everyone left. Isn't that right? At this point in time, Beside your guild, which guild has more people? Wu Ji asked again. Dugu Jiuqiang thought for a moment. To move unhindered the miners. They worked day and night. To move unhindered was a group of professional players. They paid no attention to the outside world and worked wholeheartedly in the mines. Whether the main city got massacred or not had nothing to do with them. Therefore, they were also players who stay behind. Chapter 1107. To move unhindered. Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's words, the Chuanjin members could not help but laugh. Even Dugu Jiuqiang scratched his head awkwardly. This was because Nine Swords Dugu knew that Wang Yu had a special relationship with the big boss behind Unhindered the World. Leaving aside the question of whether Unhindered the World, who only cared about money, would get involved in this matter, even if they did, it was obvious who they were on the same side as. In reality, no matter how many players there were, they were still like a sheet of loose sand without an organization. In a similar situation, when those small groups heard of Yu Huiqing's name, they would probably go offline and hide. Therefore, Dugu Jiuqiang was most afraid of those big, organized, and disciplined guilds. To move unhindered was the only big guild left in Celestial Dragon City. Moreover, they were separated by their relationship with Wang Yu. As for the other people in Celestial Dragon City, it was even easier to deal with them. During the apocalypse, they were one of the top big guilds in the country. Without the protection of the city walls of the guild encampment, the motley crew from the World Alliance would not be able to cause much trouble. Currently, the apocalypse belonged to the Celestial Dragon City faction. From a certain point of view, they were on the same side as the world of Windcloud. It was relatively easy to break into the city from the inside. Moreover, the World Alliance and the Apocalypse had already formed a grudge. If the Apocalypse did not help Chuanjin, they would not be able to survive in Celestial Dragon City. However, if they helped Chuanjin, not only would they be able to protect themselves, but Dugu Jiuqiang would also be able to become the Castellan as he wished. Rather than saying that Dugu Jiuqiang and the others were fighting for Chuanjin, it would be better to say that they were fighting for themselves. Working for others and working for themselves were two completely different concepts. Dugu Jiuqiang also knew that they were in an awkward position. Just as he was about to express his willingness to cooperate with Chuanjin, he suddenly received a private message from Wang Yu. Seeing Wang Yu's message, Dugu Jiuqiang frowned. He took out his spear and stabbed Mingdu, who was beside Wu Ji. Everyone was originally working together to fool Dugu Jiuqiang, but no one expected Dugu Jiuqiang to suddenly attack. Dugu Jiuqiang was considered an expert. His equipment was of the highest quality, and Punishment Paladin was one of the classes with the strongest single damage. How could a fragile mage like Mingdu withstand such a blow? He was instantly stabbed in a white light by Dugu Jiuqiang. Damn, Lone Dog follows hard. What do you mean by this? Seeing that Ming Do had been killed, the Chuanjin people were greatly alarmed. One by one, they unsheathed their weapons and prepared to counterattack. However, the Solitary Nine Spear had already charged all the way back to his own formation. Turning his head, he sneered, "It's not like I haven't seen you filthy people before. Do you think you can deceive me? Now that your firepower is gone, I have tens of thousands of people under me. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground." As he spoke, Dugu Jiuqiang waved his hand, and his subordinates all got into position. They seemed to have the intention of annihilating Chuanjin at the slightest disagreement. As the saying went, a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Now that World Alliance's encampment had been breached, they no longer had the terrain advantage. No matter how strong Chuanjin was, they had no chance against a major guild like the Apocalypse. Seeing that Dugu Jiuqiang had turned his back on them, Chuanjin could only glare angrily at the Apocalypse. They flapped their cloaks and flew into the sky. At that time, a player named by Yunsheng, who was standing beside Dugu Jiuqiang, looked at the Chuanjin members who had flown away unscathed and said, "Brother Gun, are we just going to let them go?" "Of course," Dugu Jiuqiang said. "Don't think that they have a small number of people, but they're not easy to deal with. Moreover, they can fly. Even if we can annihilate them, we'll lose many of our brothers. Defending the city is more important now, so these casualties are unnecessary. Defending the city? Bai Yinshin was shocked when he heard that. Brother Gun, are we really going to work with the whole wind cloud? You're wrong about that. Dugu Jiuqiang said, I'm only doing this for Heavenly Dragon City. It has nothing to do with anyone. Let's go. These people must be going to get reinforcements now. We can still set up the city's defenses if we go back now. Okay. Bai Yunxing nodded and commanded the Apocalypse players to retreat from the World Alliance's base. After the Apocalypse players had left, Wang Yu and the others flew back. At that moment, Ming Du, who had disappeared in a flash of white light, appeared not far away and said, F***CK, old cow, what's going on? Hee hee. Wang Yu chuckled and said, It's nothing. I just beat them at their own game. Beat them at their own game? Everyone was slightly stunned when they heard that. Then they said in shock, Could it be that there's a spy beside Dugu Jiuqiang? That's right. Wang Yu nodded and said, Not only is there a spy, but the spy is also a core member. How do you know? Everyone asked curiously. Wang Yu said plainly, Because there aren't many people who know that I have the Heavenly Dragon City's castle and seal, but that includes the whole of Wind Cloud. When Wang Yu and Dugu Jiuqiang worked together to assassinate Long Outyin, only Dugu Jiuqiang and a few of his trusted subordinates knew about it. Moreover, during the assassination, Wang Yu specially changed his appearance in the Wizard Academy to prevent Long Outyin from recognizing him. Even if the Apocalypse players were present, no one would be able to see Wang Yu's true appearance. However, the whole of Wind Cloud knew Wang Yu's identity as soon as Long Outyin died. It was obvious that there were people from the whole of Wind Cloud among Dugu Jiuqiang's trusted subordinates. After all, there were things like private messages in the game, so it was much more convenient to engage in espionage than in reality. Speaking of which, will people recognize you from your abnormal skills? Wu Ji asked after thinking for a while. There was no other player with Wang Yu's skills in the game. When he was fighting against Long Outyin, his performance was probably even more abnormal. It wouldn't be surprising if he was recognized. I used to think so too. Wang Yu shook his head and said, But after seeing the whole of Wind Cloud, I don't think so anymore. Why? Everyone was puzzled again. Wang Yu said plainly, If you had seen my skills with your own eyes, would you dare to provoke me again and again? F***CK. Everyone broke down. Don't blow your own trumpet. Although what you said is the truth, we're not used to it at all. As this was a battle between two main cities, the preparation time before the battle was not as long as when they attacked Yuhuicheng. This time, it was only 30 minutes. When Dugu Jiuqiang arrived at the outskirts of Heavenly Dragon City, the whole of Wind Cloud was leading his subordinates to set up the defensive equipment on the city wall. Seeing the black mass of players running towards them, the mercenaries turned pale with fright. However, the whole of Wind Cloud calmly shouted from the top of the wall, Are you here to defend the city or to attack it? Chapter 1108. Is that so? The world of Wind Cloud's face was filled with suspicion, but his tone did not sound surprised. He pondered for a moment and said, Aren't you Chuanjin's friends? Bullsh *T. Dugu Jiuqiang said angrily, Sun Zicai and those bastards are friends. We fought you because Chuanjin's people spread rumors that your World Alliance wants to deal with us. Who knew that those bastards would suddenly do this? If you don't let us in, we'll go offline and sleep. Damn it. Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's words, the world of Wind Cloud gritted his teeth and cursed. Those scoundrels. After fighting with Chuanjin for a few rounds, the world of Wind Cloud had a certain understanding of Chuanjin's style. Sowing discord was indeed Chuanjin's style. Although the world of Wind Cloud had the same idea, they had yet to make a move. Of course, Windy World wasn't a soft-hearted person. Under normal circumstances, he definitely wouldn't believe Dugu Jiuqiang's side of the story just because he had once tried to kill him. However, the world of Wind Cloud did indeed have spies in the World Alliance. The world of Wind Cloud had heard about the sudden fallout between Dugu Jiuqiang and Chuanjin and their decision to return to defend the city. Secondly, the strength displayed by Chuanjin's team was truly valiant. Moreover, They had successfully defended Yu Huicheng against so many people. Disregarding everything else, they were definitely experienced in city battles. Against such an opponent, the 10,000 men under Dugu Jiuqiang were definitely a force to be reckoned with. At this moment, the world of Windcloud was still quite afraid that Dugu Jiuqiang would turn around and leave. Therefore, although he was not confident, he immediately panicked when he heard that Dugu Jiuqiang was going to bring his men offline and sleep. He quickly asked Mouse, "Damn it, this kid wants to leave. Should we open the door and let them in?" Mouse waved his hand and said, "No, this kid is not trustworthy." "Then what if he really leaves?" The world of Windcloud was conflicted. "Watch me," Mouse said indifferently, then walked to the edge of the city wall and shouted, "Ha, Brother Spear, I'm Mouse. Do you still recognize me?" "Yes. I didn't expect you to fall to such a state." Dugu Jiuqiang glanced at Rat and said with disdain. There were also professional teams in the apocalypse, so naturally they weren't unfamiliar with Mouse. When Mouse had retired, Dugu Jiuqiang had even tried to recruit these fellows to be their training partners, but they were flatly rejected. Who would have thought that these fellows would become full-time nannies? It was truly despicable. "Hee hee," Mouse said with a smile. "Our boss is young and impetuous. Don't take it to heart. I'll go open the door for you." With that, Rat was about to go down the wall and open the door himself. F***CK Mouse. What's the difference between what you just said and what I just said? Seeing that Mouse was about to open the door to welcome his guest, Windy the World became anxious. He glared at Mouse from behind and sent him a private message. Rat replied faintly, "It's not the same. You see, if he is really sincere, he will stop me from opening the door." "Really?" Windy the World had a doubtful expression. "Don't." As expected, seeing that Mouse was about to go down the wall, Dugu Jiuqiang quickly raised his hand to stop Mouse and said, "Mouse, we've known each other for a while, so I don't want to say anything unpleasant to you. We can enter the city, and defending it is our duty. However, I also know that Xuanzhen's target is your boss. You know my temper. Dugu Jiuqiang, will never let my brothers work for someone else for nothing." "Oh." Mouse raised his eyebrows at the shocked Windy the World. He pretended to be unhappy and stopped in his tracks. Then he looked down at the city and said, "Brother Spear, do you have any other requests?" Dugu Jiuqiang stretched out 2 fingers and said indifferently, "Not many, just 2. Mouse hesitated for a while and said, "As long as you're willing to defend the city, as long as our boss can do it, we will do our best. It's very simple." Dugu Nine Spears said, "First, whether it's today or in the future, the World Alliance cannot take today's attack to heart." "Brother Spear, what are you talking about?" Mouse laughed and said, "Since we're working together, we're brothers. We'll definitely let bygones be bygones." Mouse was not surprised by Dugu Jiuqiang's request. After all, if the world of Windcloud successfully defended the city, they would definitely gain the recognition of all the players in Heavenly Dragon City. At that time, the World Alliance would definitely be powerful. Even a big guild like the post-apocalyptic era would be worried about them. Dugu Jiuqiang's request was obviously showing weakness to the World Alliance. "What's the other request?" Mouse asked. "Haha." Dugu Jiuqiang laughed and said, "If the city is successfully defended, your boss's position as the city lord will be secured. We don't have any other requests in the post-apocalyptic era other than a city district. This isn't too much, right?" "City district." Mouse frowned and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Which city district?" "The Central Administrative District." Dugu Jiuqiang blurted out. F***CK. You're asking for too much." Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's second request, the world of Windcloud could no longer sit still. He leaned on the wall and raised his objection. Who didn't know that the lifeline of a main city was the administrative district? Whether it was the shops, markets, or administrative rights, they were all second only to the city lord. The first request was fine. In the game, no one would get to know each other if they didn't fight. However, when it came to actual benefits, the world of Windcloud was not willing to compromise. "It's fine if you don't want to." Dugu Jiuqiang snapped his fingers and said, "Brothers, time to go offline and sleep." No. Mouse hurriedly shouted, "Brother Spear, why do you have to be so ruthless?" Dugu Jiuqiang waved his hand and said, "Cut the crap. If you don't want to give us, we'll go offline." As he spoke, Dugu Jiuqiang found a comfortable position and looked like he was going offline. Seeing this, Mouse anxiously said, all right, I promise you. Isn't it just the Central Administrative District? Open the door and let the brothers of the world of Windcloud in." As he spoke, Mouse frantically gestured to the world of Windcloud. "Are you crazy?" The world of Windcloud angrily shouted. "They want the Central Administrative District." "I know." Mouse smiled. "You're still smiling? Dugu Jiuqiang and his group are here to snatch territory. The Administrative District should be left for the World Alliance. How can we get it to him?" The world of Windcloud said unhappily. You're right." Mouse chuckled and whispered, "Do you still think that he's not trustworthy?" Hearing Mouse's words, the world of Windcloud was slightly stunned. He immediately understood Mouse's meaning. That's right. The reason why the world of Windcloud was in a dilemma was because he still didn't trust Dugu Jiuqiang and his group. But now, the world of Windcloud was certain that Dugu Jiuqiang was sincere in defending the city. Chapter 1109. No matter who it was, they would judge others by their own standards to a certain extent. For example, a simple and foolish person would believe that there were no thieves in this world. People like Mouse and Windcloud World would instinctively believe that there were no fools in this world who would selflessly contribute without asking for anything in return. Therefore, when Wuji knew that Wang Yu wanted Dugu Jiuqiang to make use of his own scheme to enter Heavenly Dragon City, he immediately sent a message to Dugu Jiuqiang, asking Dugu Jiuqiang to make as many requests as possible. If Dugu Jiuqiang had a selfless attitude, he would definitely be shot to death at the foot of the wall. However, Dugu Jiuqiang's insatiable greed immediately dispelled Mouse's doubts. He thought that Dugu Jiuqiang was here to take advantage of the situation to defend the city. However, even though he knew that Dugu Jiuqiang was really here to defend the city, Windcloud World was still extremely displeased. Damn it, even if that's the case, this grandson is too black-hearted. He directly asked for the position of Deputy City Lord. It was true that Windcloud World was rich, but he was not a generous person. Although giving up the administrative district was nothing compared to losing the entire main city, Windcloud World was still very conflicted when Dugu Jiuqiang asked for the most important prime location in the main city. Mouse laughed. With the current situation, it's not too much to ask for the position of Deputy City Lord. Moreover, isn't it up to you to decide whether to give it to him or not? Hearing Mouse's words, Windcloud World immediately revealed a treacherous smile. Damn it, if the defense of the city failed, Heavenly Dragon City would belong to Yu Huicheng. However, if they succeeded, it would be Windcloud World who had the final say. There were no outsiders here. Even if Windcloud World flatly denied the conditions, Heavenly Dragon City would probably not have the ability to resist at the end of the world. Thinking of this, Windcloud World smiled and ordered, "Open the gates and let Boss Dugu enter the city." Following Windy World's command, the gates of Celestial Dragon City slowly opened. Dugu Nine Spears led his subordinates into the city in a grandiose manner. Everyone from the apocalypse entered the city, and the gates of Heavenly Dragon City were closed once again. At that time, Chuanjin's group also walked leisurely towards the city walls, as though they were taking a stroll. The players on the city walls were dumbfounded when they saw only a handful of Chuanjin's members. Apart from Nation Wars, a city war was the largest PvP battle in the game. Even if you didn't bring an army to the city, it would at least be on a larger scale than a guild war. But now, there were tens of thousands of people guarding the city walls, while the other party had less than 10 people. This was no longer a matter of victory or defeat. This was clearly disrespect for the opponent. It was as if everyone was having a fight at the school gate. One side brought a machete and a big brick and called out all their aunts and aunts, while the other side only brought a nail clipper. As this person's opponent, Everyone's mood at this moment could be imagined. This dog's behavior was simply unworthy of such a solemn occasion. Are you Huicheng's people not here yet? Windy World looked at his tens of thousands of comrades behind him, then looked at the sloppy Chuanjin's group below the city walls, and asked with a frown. Yu Huicheng was not far from here. If he gathered his forces and took the airship, they should be arriving soon. Hearing Windy World's doubt, Wu Ji asked, Yu Huicheng's people? Why bother them at this late hour? Don't wait, they won't come. Windy World did not expect these fellows to really be here to attack the city. Hearing this, he immediately laughed. Oh, Yu Huicheng's people aren't here? Ha, so what? Do you think you can attack the city with just a few people? Hee hee, you think it's too few? Wu Ji said with a smile. These people are more than enough to deal with a motley crew like you. I advise you to quickly open the gates and surrender, or else everyone will lose levels and EXP. Bullsh asterisk T. Shoot this son of a B asterisk TCH to death. Wu Ji was definitely the type of person who deserved to be beaten up. Once he opened his mouth, anyone could not help but slap him. With such a talent, being a cleric was better than being a tank. The whole of Windcloud had just been beaten up by the Quanjin sect and was currently in a fit of anger. At this moment, he could not be bothered to argue with Wu Ji. Without waiting for Wu Ji to finish speaking, the whole of Windcloud immediately gave his subordinates an order. The mercenaries of World Alliance received the order, knocked their arrows, gathered their spells, and aimed at the Chuanjin players below the city walls. At the same time, Dugu Jiuqiang also drew his weapon and pointed it at the World Alliance players on the city walls. Brothers, go. He then added in the guild channel, kill the World Alliance players. After the players of World Alliance received the order, a series of question marks appeared on their heads. Although they did not know what Dugu Jiuqiang was planning, times were different now. They had to carry out their boss's orders. Kill. Therefore, the players of World Alliance let out a deafening roar, raised their weapons, and charged forward. Windy World thought that the players of World Alliance were here to snatch their kills. He turned around and said loudly, Boss Dugu, it's just these few people. There's no need to trouble your brothers. At this moment, rays of cold light flashed past. The players of World Alliance pounced forward, ramming, slashing, casting spells, and shooting arrows at the World Alliance players. The PvP skills of the World Alliance mercenaries were indeed better than ordinary players. However, the World Alliance was a huge guild, and it was not easy to enter it. Moreover, the players of World Alliance were currently firing at Chuanjin's men below the city walls. No one was guarding against the enemies behind them. Moreover, the players of World Alliance outnumbered the World Alliance players by 10 times. In just a single round, the World Alliance mercenaries were either slashed to death, beaten to critical health, or knocked down the city walls. Looking at this scene, the pitiful Windy World was dumbfounded. He had never expected Dugu Jiuqiang to bring his subordinates to attack at this time. He was still thinking of denying the matter regarding the administrative district after the harvest was over and putting Dugu Jiuqiang on his side. He did not expect Dugu Jiuqiang to be even more ruthless and kill him directly. The feeling of being deceived was not a good one. The more Windy World harbored evil intentions towards others, the more he could not accept the fact that he had been deceived. When Windy World finally reacted, he immediately exploded. Flustered and exasperated, he pointed at Dugu Jiuqiang and scolded, Dog 9 spears. Are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? Do you still want to stay in Skydragon City? Facing Windy World's scolding, Dugu Jiuqiang remained silent with a cold expression. He lowered his head and charged towards Windy World. He raised his spear and used a level 40 skill, Wind Assault Stab. Chapter 11:10. Clang! Just as Dugu Jiuqiang's head was about to be pierced through by Heavenly Windcloud Spear, a huge shield rushed over and blocked between the two of them. As a punishment paladin, Dugu Jiuqiang's attack power was extremely high. As for a shield warrior, as a defensive tank class, his judgment was also extremely high. Both of them were strength-type players, so they played head-on. Although their techniques weren't high, it was still quite shocking when they collided. Dugu Zhuqiang's spear collided with the shield, and after an ear-piercing sound, Dugu Zhuqiang was forced to take a few steps back before he could stabilize himself. Oomph. When Dugu Zhuqiang regained his senses and saw the person who blocked him, he sneered, "I was wondering who it was." "So it's Tiger," as expected of a former professional expert. When he said the words professional expert, Dugu Zhuqiang deliberately emphasized his tone. It was easy to learn bad things. After fighting against the Chuanjin sect for so many years, in addition to learning the shamelessness of the Chuanjin sect, the Duganine spear was also quite accomplished in harming people. This sentence seemed to be flattering Tiger's strength, but in reality, it was mocking Tiger, a professional expert, for being a nanny to wipe someone's ass. His words were quite vicious. Tiger could naturally hear the sarcasm in Dugu Zhuqiang's words. He smiled awkwardly and smashed the shield on the ground. "Brother Spear, why are you doing this? If we join forces, we might not be Chuanjin's match." It had to be said that the strength that Chuanjin had displayed was enough to make an expert like Tiger fearful. In this situation, even if he joined forces with Dugu Zhuqiang, he wouldn't dare to say that he could completely defeat Chuanjin. It couldn't be helped. After getting close to Chuanjin, Tiger finally understood what it meant to be impossible to defend against. "Oomph." Dugu Zhuqiang looked at Tigris with disdain and said, "I'm different from you 12 constellations. My goal is Heavenly Dragon City, not to wipe people's ass for the rest of my life." Dugu Zhuqiang wasn't the type of person who would willingly submit to others. Dugu Zhuqiang didn't care about a small, penniless guild like World of Upheaval at all. However, not only had World of Upheaval's core members been poached, but World of Upheaval had even tried to recruit Heavenly Dragon City's city lord. How could Dugu Zhuqiang tolerate this? Moreover, given the current situation, as long as the World Alliance failed to defend the city, Dugu Zhuqiang would have the opportunity to become the city governor. On one side was the Castellan, and on the other side was the district mayor. Although both seemed like empty promises, Dugu Zhuqiang was still willing to choose the one with the bigger chips. After all, as a person, Dugu Zhuqiang was more willing to believe in Wang Yu. Logically, Dugu Zhuqiang would never help the whole of Windcloud. After being ridiculed by Dugu Zhuqiang once again, Tiger's face darkened. He couldn't help but say angrily, "If you want to be the city governor, you need to have the ability. Although I've retired, I'm not someone who can be bullied by anyone." "I admit that." Dugu Zhuqiang kept his spear and said indifferently, "However, I have so many subordinates. Why should I fight you one-on-one?" Following which, Dugu Zhuqiang pointed at Tiger and the whole of Windcloud and ordered, "Kill them." The World Alliance's mercenaries were caught off guard and suffered a great loss. Moreover, they didn't have an advantage in terms of quantity and quality. In just a few minutes, they were beaten to the point where they could only defend themselves. Even if these people were really World of Windcloud's trusted subordinates, they wouldn't be of much use at this moment, let alone the fact that they were only paid to do their jobs. After taking control of the mercenaries, everyone heard Dugu Zhuqiang's order and swarmed over. When the members of the 12 Stars saw the players rushing towards the whole of Windcloud, they tore a hole in the formation of the players and protected the whole of Windcloud. Very soon, the whole of Windcloud's party was forced to the side of the city wall by the tens of thousands of players. Of course, there were times when numbers didn't necessarily mean an absolute advantage. For example, on the city wall, if the players on both sides had similar combat skills and equipment quality, 10,000 players would have the absolute advantage against 1,000 mercenaries. A few consecutive charges would be enough to break through the enemy's line of defense. However, the top of the city wall wasn't spacious. With so many people stretching the line, they could barely hold their ground. If they wanted to surround the enemy, there wouldn't be any space for them to stand. It would already be good if a few hundred out of 10,000 people could reach the city wall. This was especially so when they were up against the top experts of the 12 Stars. It was very easy for the whole of Windcloud to not be able to take down a few people from Chuanjin in the World Alliance's encampment. As expected, Under the protection of the experts of the 12 stars, the whole of Wind Cloud stood at the side of the city wall and blocked the waves of attacks from the apocalypse. F***, those guys are too hard to deal with. It's not going to be easy for us. Seeing this situation, Light Brother and the others were helpless. They asked Dugu Jiuqiang, why don't we find professional players as well? They had no choice. In this kind of terrain, it would be pointless if they couldn't reach their opponents no matter how many people stood. If they wanted to deal with these people, they had to find people who were on par with them to help. Dugu Jiuqiang bit his lips in a dilemma. Then, he stretched his head and looked at the bottom of the city wall with a pleading look. Professional players were all masters. Putting aside the fact that professional players were very familiar with each other, would they attack their old acquaintances of the 12 stars? At this time, everyone was sleeping soundly. How could they ask them to bully this group of retired dogs? Weren't they asking for a scolding? Instead of being rebuffed, it was better to ask for help from the few masters below. However, when the Chuanjin players saw this, they quickly turned their heads and ignored Dugu Jiuqiang. To place one's pride, looked at the chaos at the top of the city wall and asked in confusion, "Are we really not going to help? It's not worth it." Wang Yu said calmly, "There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. If Dugu Jiuqiang wants the City Lord's seal, then do it himself. This is Sky Dragon City's matter. Why should we interfere?" Logically speaking, Wang Yu had promised to give Sky Dragon City's seal to Dugu Jiuqiang when he fought against Long Outyin. However, because Dugu Jiuqiang had placed all his hopes on Wang Yu, he was unwilling to help. In the end, Wang Yu killed Long Outyin alone. The two of them were not related, so Wang Yu was naturally unwilling to work for him for free. The current situation was basically the same as last time, but the difficulty was much lower. If over 10,000 people couldn't even take down a group of retired professional players, then whole Wind Cloud should be the City Lord. At the very least, he had the strength. Seeing that Xuanjin's people were determined not to help, Dugu Jiuqiang sighed and loudly ordered, "The other classes back off. Archers, gather here and fire." Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's order, whole Wind Cloud's face turned green. Damn, this kind of shameless and brainless method was exactly what whole Wind Cloud had used to deal with Xuanjin. Chapter 11:11. Facts had proven that the less technical the method, the simpler and more effective it was. There were tens of thousands of players at the end of the world, and archers made up a large proportion of them. In the face of a long-range class like archers, the advantage of numbers was much greater than that of melee classes. No matter how strong the 12 stars were, they could not withstand the simultaneous attacks of so many people. Moreover, they were not like Xuanjin, who had the revival point as a base to fight to the death. After a few rounds of shooting, the tanks at the front were reduced to a sliver of HP. Seeing that the 12 stars could no longer withstand the attacks, Dugu Jiuqiang clenched his fists in excitement. In the City War of Rebirth, there were only two conditions for the defending side to fail. First, the City Lord had to be killed within the stipulated time. Second, the City Lord had to surrender and hand over the seal within the stipulated time. Hence, once Wind Cloud World died, Sky Dragon City would fall. Wind Cloud World and his men were like cornered beasts. Dying was only a matter of time. Of course, as the defender, Wind Cloud World knew his weakness better than anyone else. At this moment, Fenyu Tianxia saw that he was about to be shot to death by the arrows. He was already panicking like a frightened rabbit. What should I do? What should I do? Wind Cloud World anxiously looked down the city wall. If it wasn't for Xuanjin's men standing at the foot of the wall and the fact that the city wall was too high, he would have jumped down in panic. Under such circumstances, Rat was helpless no matter how smart he was. He could only sigh. What else can we do? As long as you don't die, we won't lose the city. But if you don't want to die now, you have to fly. Fly? Wind Cloud World's eyes lit up when he heard this. As they spoke, a few of the 12 stars were shot to death. Seeing that Wind Cloud World only had less than 5 people left, Dugu Jiuqiang said excitedly, "Everyone, let's work harder. Who can shoot that kid at the back? I'll reward him with 1,000 gold coins." 1,000 gold coins. Hearing Dugu Jiuqiang's words, the archers were excited. They turned their arrows and aimed at Windcloud World. In a split second, the rain of arrows that covered the sky converged into a single point and shot towards Windcloud World. At this moment, Windcloud World's few remaining subordinates stood in front of Windcloud World. The tank class of the 12 celestial bodies had been shot to death a moment ago. Archers were a physical class with a passive armor-piercing effect. Without the protection of a tank shield, how could they withstand so many arrows with just their own defense? What's more, the last of the 12 celestial forms were the squishy professions that dealt damage while hiding in the crotch. Countless arrows landed on everyone's bodies, creating a series of white lights. Just as Heavenly Windcloud was about to follow his subordinates, a white light flashed. Suddenly, a strange change occurred. In the blink of an eye, Windy World formed a strange hand seal and slammed it on the ground. A huge hexagram magic array lit up on the ground. At the same time, a dazzling light erupted from the magic array, and a huge black dragon drilled out of the magic array and stood in front of the world of Windcloud. Clang, 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 clang. Everyone's arrows had killed 4 experts in a row, and their power had been greatly reduced. At this moment, when the arrows hit the black dragon's scales, sparks flew and the sound of metal colliding could be heard. Creatures like giant dragons had always been of a high level. It was rare for ordinary players in the game to see them. The players who were most traumatized by giant dragons were those in the post-apocalyptic era. Back then, Dugu Jiuqiang had led a team to slay a dragon. The players of the post-apocalyptic era had personally witnessed Long Outyin massacring an entire city. They had also personally experienced being turned into dust by dragon breath. At this moment, giant dragons were definitely traumatized, especially the black dragon that looked like Long Outyin. Everyone present shuddered in fear. Seeing that Windy World had summoned a black dragon, the players of the post-apocalyptic era felt their legs turn to jelly. Their hair stood on end as they shouted, F***CK. It's Long Outyin. Everyone run. Immediately, everyone fled in all directions, and the scene became chaotic. Those who had not seen Long Outyin's ferocity would not be able to understand the fear of the players of the post-apocalyptic era. Even Dugu Jiuqiang and a few core players were completely dumbfounded. F***CK. Even Long Outyin was pulled out. These rich people always broke the rules of the game. It was truly despicable. Windy World also knew that his dragon was only around level 40. Although it looked mighty and domineering, its true strength was far from Long Outyin's. Naturally, he would not ask for trouble by chasing after people of the post-apocalyptic era. While the players were in chaos, Windy World jumped onto the dragon's back. He patted the dragon's head and said, "Take off, little black." The black dragon spread its wings and carried Windy the World into the sky. Giant dragons were not flying items like cloaks. As pets, the flying speed of a giant dragon was not limited by the player's movement attribute and time. Moreover, Windy World was a dragon knight. With the riding skill of his class, his flying speed could be described with one word: fast. In the blink of an eye, Windy World rushed into the sky and flew out of everyone's sight. The player's attack range was far inferior to their vision range. They could not even see Windy World, let alone attack him. They could only watch as the dying man escaped. Uncle Nyo had never raised a giant dragon before, and he was not Taoist priest Xinjibing. He did not know how it felt to ride a giant dragon. However, looking down from the sky and seeing so many people below him but unable to do anything to him, the feeling should be quite comfortable. Without boasting, Windy World hovered in the sky. He felt that he could persevere until the end of the siege. Thinking of this, Windy World's face unconsciously revealed a proud smile. "Hey, why are you smiling like an idiot?" However, just as Windy World was in a good mood, a familiar voice suddenly rang in his ear. This sudden voice caused Windy World to jump up in fright. This was the sky. Why was there someone hiding in the sky? Therefore, Windy World subconsciously pulled the giant dragon's neck and turned his body around in an extremely unfamiliar manner. However, When Windy World saw the appearance of the player behind him, his heart skipped a beat and a chill ran down his spine. If it was not for the giant dragon's wide back, this brat would have fallen from the shock. Flight was not an extremely rare skill. There were many people who could fly in the game, but there was only one person who could fly as fast as a giant dragon, and that person was Wang Yu. Looking at Wang Yu's demonic face, Windy World was on the verge of tears. He pointed at Wang Yu and said in a trembling voice, "Why are you here?" Chapter 11:12. Me? Hearing that, Wang Yu smiled. She flapped the pure white wings behind her and said, "I flew up." Then Wang Yu said, "Why? Do you want me to do it? Or do you want to go down yourself?" Looking at Wang Yu, who was in front of him, he knew that he was going to die anyway, so he might as well give it his all. Gritting his teeth, he slapped the head of the giant dragon he was riding and shouted, "F***CKU, kill him." Roar. The black dragon let out a roar, and with a shake of its claws, it charged towards Wang Yu. "Umph, stubborn fool." With a cold snort, Wang Yu leaped into the air and stepped on the dragon's head, dodging the attack. At the same time, he bent down and extended his hand. His movement was smooth as he grabbed the world of Windcloud's collar and forcefully pulled him down. Roar! Since its master was captured, the giant dragon was eager to protect its master. It twisted its huge body and turned around, opening its mouth to breathe. Wang Yu tossed the whole of the world into the air. Then he steadied himself on the horse steed and fully activated his state. His left hand drew a circle while his right palm struck out at the black dragon. A huge flaming dragon flew out from Wang Yu's palm with an aura that could topple mountains and overturn the seas, blasting the black dragon. Dragons subduing mystery, arrogant dragons, remorse. Wang Yu was also someone who had fought against giant dragons before, so he knew very well how terrifying these creatures were. Therefore, he went all out from the start. Not only did he activate the dragon's subduing palm, but he also activated his internal breath. With a double strengthening buff, Flame Dragon Break was directly strengthened into the dragon's subduing palm's ultimate ultimacy, Arrogant Dragon's Remorse. Dragon's subduing palm, be it its name or its background story, was created to deal with dragons. In the background story, even a godlike existence like Dragon Emperor Dale's was defeated by this palm technique, let alone a black dragon that was not even as high as Wang Yu. Boom! With a loud bang, the heavenly wind cloud's black dragon was instantly devoured by the fire dragon. It turned into a ball of white light and flew towards the heavenly wind cloud. Wang Yu gently extended his hand and grabbed the world of wind cloud before spreading his wings and descending. Although Wang Yu did not have a pet, Wuji and Chunxiang were both snake-rearing professionals. Therefore, Wang Yu knew that the world of Wind Cloud's black dragon had been beaten into a spirit state and could not be summoned again for a while. The world of Wind Cloud did not have a divine weapon like the Book of Sealing. As for the punishment for the death of a pet, only the world of Wind Cloud knew. However, judging from Heavenly Wind Cloud's expression, the death penalty for a pet should not be low. No one knew better than Wind Cloud World how strong his pet was. It was a powerful existence that had withstood a wave of 10,000 arrows, yet it was instantly killed by a single palm. Wind Cloud World was on the verge of collapsing. He muttered to himself, my dragon, my dragon. Plop! Wang Yu carried the world of Wind Cloud with one hand and landed lightly at the bottom of the city wall. He violently threw the world of Wind Cloud to the ground and gestured to Dugu Jiuqiang, who was on the wall. Dugu Jiuqiang nodded his head and led the core players down the city wall, arriving in front of Chuanjin's group. F***CK your mother. Seeing that Dugu Jiuqiang and the others had also come down from the city wall, the world of Wind Cloud flew into a rage. He jumped up and was about to fight to the death with Dugu Jiuqiang. Bao San and the others immediately rushed forward and pressed the world of Wind Cloud to the ground. Hee. Wuji grinned and said, "Little Feng, you didn't expect this, right? This is the result of thinking yourself clever." WH, what do you mean? The world of Wind Cloud revealed a confused expression. Mph. Wuji sneered and said, "What do I mean?" As he spoke, Wuji's gaze swept across the faces of the people behind Dugu Juqiang, and he pointed at them and said, "It's all thanks to this brother that you're able to enter the city and survive." The world of Windcloud was shocked. He subconsciously looked behind Dugu Juqiang and said in a panic, I don't know what you're talking about." Seeing the world of Windcloud's reaction, Wang Yu, Wuji, and the others smiled knowingly. As expected, the world of Windcloud had spies, and the spies were among the 4 people behind Dugu Juqiang. The world of Windcloud was not stupid. He would not be tricked and expose himself. However, Wuji was good at psychological attacks. Seeing that the world of Windcloud did not fall for it, he smiled and pulled Dugu Juqiang to Wang Yu's side. He pointed at the 4 people and said to Dugu Juqiang, "He's a spy." Light Brother and the others were dumbfounded. Bai Yunsheng, who was at the side, blurted out, "No, you're talking nonsense." Hearing Bai Yunsheng's words, the Chuanjin people narrowed their eyes and looked at Bai Yunsheng with evil smiles. The world of Windcloud also held his forehead in despair. Wuji snapped his fingers and pointed at Bai Yunsheng, saying to Dugu Juqiang, "That's him. You do as you see fit." Dugu Juqiang stared at the speechless Bai Yunsheng in disbelief. His face darkened as he said indifferently, "Tomorrow morning, go to the HR department to complete the resignation procedures." Following that, Dugu Juqiang said to Light Brother and the others, "Help him take off his equipment." Since the guild had reached this stage of the apocalypse, it had already become an enterprise. As a core player, all of Bai Yunsheng's resources belonged to the guild. Since they wanted to fire him, they naturally had to take back all of his belongings. Bai Yunsheng did not dare to refuse. Firstly, everyone had signed a contract. Secondly, there were tens of thousands of players in the world of Windcloud. If he dared to refuse, they would definitely kill him. The end of the world was a large organization with practical benefits, and it wasn't as united as the Chuanjin sect. There were many people in the guild who didn't like Bai Yunsheng, and those who kicked him when he was down were enough to play with him until he died. At the same time, the players in the world of Windcloud received the news. Green Dragon Hall leader Bai Yunsheng has been removed from the guild by President Dugu Juqiang. Seeing this news, the players in the world of Windcloud were in an uproar. Light Brother and the others were still confused. They asked Dugu Juqiang in confusion, "Gun bro, what's wrong? Why was Bai kicked out?" "He's a traitor," Dugu Juqiang said indifferently. "Based on what? There's no evidence. You can't just believe what an outsider says, especially when it's Chuanjin." Everyone shouted when they heard that. "How is there no evidence?" Wuji smiled and pointed at Bai Yunsheng. "His reaction is the evidence. A normal person would not be able to react in time due to the inertia of their thinking when they were suddenly asked an irrelevant question without knowing what was going on. Only those who were in the know would be on their guard when Wuji was deliberately mystifying things. Thus, after Wuji had whetted everyone's appetite, he pointed at a few people and said that they were spies. The others were all dumbfounded, knowing that they did not understand what Wuji was saying. Bai Yunsheng, who had his guard up against Wuji from the start, quickly rebutted. Chapter 11:13. Light Brother and the others weren't brainless to be core players of such a big guild like the Apocalypse. It was obvious, but the 3 of them were caught off guard and couldn't react in time. Now that Wuji reminded them, they immediately came to their senses. The 3 of them pointed at Bai Yunsheng in shock and asked, "It's really you? Why did you become a traitor?" Bai Yunsheng was calm. Since his identity was exposed, it was futile to deny it. He looked at Dugu Juqiang calmly and said, "We can't play games forever. I just wanted to— Fine. Bai Yunsheng was about to explain why he wanted to become a traitor, but Wuji rudely interrupted him. "You just wanted a better future, we know. I'm not Detective Conan, and the readers aren't interested in your explanation. Shut up." Bai Yunsheng swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue after being rebuked by Wuji. Humans strive for greater heights, and water flows to the bottom. Everyone just wanted to have a better future. This was human nature. It was just a game. There was no need to get too involved. However, Bai Yunxiang still had to give himself a high-sounding reason for his betrayal, which made Wuji look down on him. After rebuking Bai Yunxiang, Wuji rubbed his nose and said to Dugu Juqiang, "Song Xin, I've caught these two brothers, and we don't owe each other anything anymore. You can decide how to deal with these two." Dugu Juqiang had just experienced his brother's betrayal, so he was in a very bad mood. You couldn't really do anything to a person in the game, and most of you could just strip them of their equipment. At this time, Bai Yunxiang had already handed over all his equipment, only his level. "Kill them." Dugu Juqiang took a deep breath, wiped his face with his hand, and calmly waved at Light Brother and the others. The three of them looked at Bai Yunxiang and the world of Wind Cloud with complicated gazes, and quickly turned the two into white light. Pada! After the world of Wind Cloud died, the Castellan seal fell to the ground. Wang Yu casually scooped it up and tossed it a couple of times in her hand. After weighing it for a while, she tossed it to Dugan Nine's spear. Dugu Juqiang caught the seal, and the frustration in his heart lessened a little. At the same time, system announcement. Under the leadership of Afterglow City City Lord, Iron Bull, the players of Afterglow City have fought a bloody battle for 15 minutes and finally breached Heavenly Dragon City. They have killed the bandit leader, Unstable World, and obtained victory in the city war. From today onwards, Heavenly Dragon City will be under Afterglow City's control and will be placed in a neutral faction. Following that, there were various rewards for the players who participated in the battle. The rewards for attacking a city were naturally very generous, and the Chuanjin players were quite satisfied with it. However, Wuji had a face full of disdain. This system's choice of words is really low quality. What do you mean by bloody battle? I didn't even have to waste a single soldier to take down Sky Dragon City. Everyone heard this and sighed. Tisk tsk, tsk. Wuji really knows how to brag. Attacking a city was the largest battle that the players could control. Under normal circumstances, other than the system rewards, the defeated guild would have to pay compensation to redeem their Castellan seal. After all, once they were defeated, they would become someone else's territory, and things like seals were useless to the victorious party. However, Wang Yu gave the seal to Dugu Juqiang, which reduced the amount of compensation. Of course, for Chuanjin, the more gold coins they had, the more burdensome it would be. With the current depreciation rate of gold coins, it was more uncomfortable than directly taking money out of these people's pockets. For a large-scale battle mission, like a city battle, the participants would actually be rewarded. Even the Sky Dragon City players, as the defeated party, had worked hard even if they didn't make any contributions, so they more or less received a consolation prize. At this time, the Castellan seal had not been redeemed, so it was a win-win situation for everyone. However, Dugu Juqiang's expression was still sullen. The Chuanjin players couldn't help but walk over and pat Dugu Juqiang's shoulder, saying with a smile, "No matter how united a guild is, there might be traitors. This is a matter of probability. Do you know that 1 out of 5 men is impotent? You just happen to be unlucky." These bastards were asking for a beating. Dugu Juqiang was already like this, and they were still making sarcastic remarks at the side. "Get lost, get lost." Dugu Juqiang waved his hand to chase everyone away. "You're the ones who are impotent. This is the sadness of a defeated Castellan." The Chuanjin players curled their lips and said, "Yo, yo, yo. I didn't know that you, a man, could be so sentimental. We didn't ask you for money, and in the end, you've earned it. Don't be sad. We didn't compensate." Dugu Juqiang said gloomily, "But our Sky Dragon City has now become Yu Huiqing's territory. When the players come online tomorrow, our apocalypse will be miserable." The Chuanjin players all turned to look at Wang Yu. Dugu Juqiang was right. Everyone played the game, and no one wanted to become someone else's subjects for no reason. When the other players came online tomorrow and asked about the reason for their defeat, they would be scolded to death in the apocalypse. Not only did they become traitors, but they also led everyone to surrender. This kind of behavior would be considered a national traitor in times of war. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Wang Yu helplessly spread his hands and said, "I can't do anything about it." Although, I'm the Castellan. If they want to get rid of their subordinate status, they have to break through our Yu Huicheng again. Do you want our Yu Huicheng to become Sky Dragon City subjects? F***CK. Hearing Wang Yu's words, the Chuanjian players were stunned. Then, they decisively said, "Accept your fate, little nine. If you don't accept your fate, we'll kill you until you do." Dugu Jiuqiang was speechless. Hee. At this moment, Wuji, who had been silent, suddenly thought and said, "Listen to your heart. Actually, being Yu Huicheng subjects is your Sky Dragon City's gain." "Oh, what do you mean?" Dugu Jiuqiang sneered and crossed his arms as he looked at Wuji. "Think about it." Wuji asked Dugu Jiuqiang, "What faction are the players in your main city in now?" "This." Dugu Jiuqiang looked at his own faction and said, "Neutral faction." "That's it." Wuji asked again, "Do you still remember what the expansion pack for the game is?" "Nonsense, it's the Rise of the Dragons." Dugu Jiuqiang blurted out. "That's right." Wuji narrowed his eyes and said, "I think you know how the so-called dragon's bloodline came about." "This." Hearing Wuji's words, Dugu Jiuqiang's eyes lit up, and the annoyance on his face disappeared without a trace. Dugu Jiuqiang was a veteran player. Since he played the game, it was impossible for him not to know the game's new content. The only way for the players to obtain the inheritance of the dragon's bloodline now was to join the neutral faction. However, not everyone could join the neutral faction if they wanted to. As an affiliated city of Yu Huicheng, after Sky Dragon City was liberated, it naturally joined the neutral faction. In this case, Sky Dragon City, being an affiliated main city of Yu Huicheng, was the biggest reward for this city war. As the saying went, the strongest weapon was a patch. Chapter 11:14. Usually, Wang Yu's work and rest schedule was very regular. Today, when he was about to go to sleep, he got up from his bed and tossed and turned for half the night. Even if he was a martial artist, it was inevitable that he would be tired. After the city battle, Dugu Jiuqiang led everyone away. Wang Yu let out a long sigh of relief and went offline with the rest of Chuanjian. When the news of Heavenly Dragon City being conquered by less than 10 people from Chuanjian spread throughout the game, it was already the afternoon of the next day. Looking at the news on the forum, all the guild leaders were restless, especially when they heard that Whole of Windcloud was the second Castellan. The guild leaders who had been eyeing the main city seal saw that Whole of Windcloud had been destroyed before he could even warm his seat. One could imagine how they felt. After thinking about it, everyone decided to put off their dream of becoming Castellans for now. Damn it, they were able to conquer a city with less than 10 people. If they were to bring players from 2 main cities, who could win? Rather than working for someone else, it was better to stay put and avoid being the first to stand out. In the office of 10,000 Miles Yellow Sand, the third largest guild in the country, the vice guild leader, 10,000 Miles Wild Wind, looked at the news he had just received and said to the guild leader, "Yellow Sand covers the sun," who was beside him with a hint of schadenfreude in his voice. "Didn't I say it before? The Whole of Windcloud is just a nobody, yet he dares to become the city lord. Look, he's been targeted by the Quanjin sect. If it were us, those bastards from the Quanjin sect would have to reconsider their own abilities." "Hee, you're thinking too much." Yellow Sand laughed. "Whole of Windcloud is not a nobody." "Oh? He's also an expert?" 1,000 Miles Fierce Wind asked. "Expert? He's not one, but you should have heard of World Dominator." Yellow Sand asked. "World Dominator?" Hearing this ID, 1,000 Miles Fierce Wind was slightly stunned. He thought for a moment and said, "Isn't he the #1 tycoon who said, 'Don't use your annual salary to challenge my pocket money'?" "That's right, it's him." Yellow Sand said, "I heard that the 12 stars worked under him." "So what?" 10,000 Miles Gale said disdainfully, "No matter how much money they have and how many experts they have working for them, they're still just a small, unknown guild. It's not surprising that they were taken down by a small group like Chuanjian. After all, the most important resource in the game are the players. How do you know that World of Winds and Clouds doesn't have anyone? Don't forget that World of Winds and Clouds is still guarding Heavenly Dragon City." Doomsday? The expression on Wanli Huangsha's face froze. After a long while, he muttered, could it be that the apocalypse is also involved? The enmity between World's End and the Quan Jin sect was not a secret in the eyes of these veteran players. The Quan Jin sect had attacked Heavenly Dragon City, so it was only logical that World's End would give World of Windcloud some face. If one were to say that World of Windcloud wasn't a big guild, everyone would admit it. However, if anyone were to say that World of Windcloud wasn't a big guild, they would be slapping themselves in the face. World Apocalypse was one of the biggest guilds in the country, with tens of thousands of players under their command. Even so many people couldn't resist Xuanjin's group. Just how terrifying were they? They're involved. Yellow Sand Covers the Sun nodded and said, but it's not what you think. The Apocalypse is helping the Xuanjin sect this time. What? Did I hear that right? 10,000 Miles Fierce Gale was surprised for a moment. Then he muttered, no wonder, no wonder. I thought the Quan Jin sect was very scary. It turns out that they have the help of people from the Apocalypse. But why would people from the Apocalypse help the Quan Jin sect? 10,000 Miles Gale was puzzled. AI. Yellow Sand Covers the Sun shook his head and sighed. This is the scariest part of the Xuanjin sect. No matter how strong a fortress was, it was still afraid of being destroyed from the inside. This was something everyone knew. If Xuanjin had tricked the players of Sky Dragon City into betraying them, then it would have been fine. After all, normal players didn't have any faction to rely on. Under the pressure of Sky Dragon City's major guilds, they didn't have any sense of collective honor. It was reasonable for someone to give them some benefits. However, at the end of the world, there were definitely those who benefited from it. Heavenly Dragon City was at the top of the food chain, and it was also the sworn enemy of the Quan Jin sect. The Quan Jin sect actually fooled the entire world into fighting on their side. It could be seen how terrifying their ability to mislead people and sow discord was. Thinking about this, Yellow Sand couldn't help but think back to his days in the Three Fiends village. Although there were some internal conflicts in the Three Fiends village, they didn't have to fight each other as a whole. However, because they had offended Xuanjin, the conflict suddenly broke out. After a series of chaotic battles, they were unable to recover, and in the end, they were dismembered. As expected, the scariest thing was the human heart. Thinking about Yellow Sand's reputation in Wind City, Yellow Sand bitterly smiled and shook his head. Regarding the matter of being a city lord, let's take it slow. No way, boss. When can we become a city lord? 1,000 Miles Gale asked in shock. Only by following the will of the people can we be unassailable. Yellow Sand bemoaned the state of the universe and pitted the fate of mankind. It was as if he was a politician, causing 1,000 Miles Gale to look at him with disdain. Yellow Sand wasn't the only one. When the other major guilds heard that Xuanjin's greatest helper was an old rival of Xuanjin, they also realized that Xuanjin's current position couldn't be replicated. If a guild wanted to grow, it needed to occupy the best resources. Oppressing other players was unavoidable. At that time, with a wave of their arms, they could drown the guild in the sea of people's war. If a guild couldn't grow, it wouldn't have the strength to deter other guilds. If it couldn't deter other guilds, how could it become a city lord? Bullsh *T. Even Dugu Jiuqiang was willing to betray them and help Xuanjin take over the city. What else was impossible? From this, it could be seen that what everyone lacked wasn't a seal or an opportunity, but a person who could intimidate the world. As for that person, it was naturally the student Wang Yu that all of Yu Huiqing's guilds wholeheartedly accepted. However, the reason why all of Yu Huiqing's players respected Wang Yu from the bottom of their hearts, other than his unfathomable strength, his unique charisma was also indispensable. At the very least, Wang Yu rarely took the initiative to bully the weak. On the contrary, he was very willing to help others. Even the famous scum of Xuanjin, after Wang Yu joined them, became much more restrained. He didn't dare to speak about other main cities, but in Yu Huicheng, Xuanjin's reputation was fundamentally different from before. It couldn't be helped. The game world of Rebirth was very big. Xuanjin only had a few people. Even if they risked their lives to plunder resources, they couldn't compare to those major guilds that easily had tens of thousands of people. At this moment, Wang Yu probably didn't know that he had once again made a name for himself by teaching Whole of Windcloud a lesson. Chapter 11:15. The following days were relatively peaceful. Every day, Wang Yu would happily fight dungeons with everyone. Then, he would run around to find bosses to farm equipment. His days were quite happy. Peaceful days always passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. At this time, Wang Yu had risen from level 55 to level 59. Xuanjin's members had also risen from level 50 to level 55. Since level 50, the experience required for players to level up had increased again. It was an astronomical figure. With everyone's current experience in dungeons, being able to level up once a week was already considered very fast. One had to know that compared to other main city players, Yu Huicheng had a lot of advantages. However, because of the difficulty of leveling up and the big threshold of the Awakening Quest, there were still many people who were stuck at level 50. Nowadays, the highest level of the game players was only around level 52. These were the experts who had the ability to complete the Awakening Quest. Everyone, let's go for a drink, or to Sunset Mountains. Xuanjin finished the last level 50 dungeon and was teleported to the entrance of the dungeon. Wuji habitually said his catchphrase, "Not going, get lost." The others responded in unison as usual. Boring. Wuji curled his lips and asked, "Then where are you going to mingle? Bring me along." Every time he drank alone, Wuji also wanted to change the way he played. Exquisite Dream pulled Yang Na and said, "Let's go shopping at the trade street. I heard that there's a new tailor shop there that can make clothes. Do you want to go?" "I'm not interested." Wuji shook his head. For things like clothes, if it was a special item dropped by a boss, it seemed to have some special effects. However, the clothes sold in the shop and made by players had no special effects other than looking good. Wuji was already as beautiful as a flower. Of course, he did not need to spend money on dressing up. Besides, there was no reason to let a woman pay for shopping with him. No matter how shameless Wuji was, he would not do such a thing. The best decision was not to go. "I'm going to the auction to see if there are any good equipment. Do you want to go?" Famous Blade Snow asked as he touched the dagger in his hand. "I'm not going." Wuji shook his head. Wuji was doing business without any capital. Ming Jian Daoxue, who bought low and sold high, was not in line with his temperament. As for the others, they either went to the arena to farm points or to the alchemy shop to concoct poisons. To place one's pride, on the other hand, went to the streets to look at beauties. Such senseless behavior was better than sitting alone in the tavern and listening to the bragging of the people in the tavern. "What about you, old cow? Where are you going? Can you bring me along?" Wuji's gaze finally landed on Wang Yu. Wang Yu shrugged and said, "I'm going to level up, hiss." Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone sucked in a cold breath. Hard work isn't scary. What's scary is when people who are better than you work harder than you. After exclaiming in surprise, Wuji wiped his sweat and said, "Big brother, you don't have to work so hard. Hee hee." Wang Yu laughed and said, "I'm about to reach level 60. Level 60. There was a bottleneck after level 50. At level 50, players learned the awakening skills. At level 60, players learned the ultimate skills of their class. For example, Bao San's Rising Dragon Slash and Wuji's Resurrection were one of the ultimate skills of their class. Now that Wang Yu is almost 60, the EXP gained from clearing dungeons with the others was like a drop in the bucket compared to her long EXP bar. If she wanted to learn the ultimate skills of her class, she would probably have to wait another month. Wang Yu was also a person who loved martial arts and enjoyed the process of becoming stronger. Naturally, he was also eager to learn the ultimate skills of his class. Wuji had played the game for many years and naturally knew the feeling of getting closer to the goal. So he waved his hand and said, "Then work hard. We won't bother you anymore." After saying that, everyone said goodbye to each other and went their separate ways. Seeing everyone leave, Wang Yu reinvigorated himself, clenched his fists, and walked along the Sunset Mountains in another direction. The Sunset Valley was the main road between Yu Huicheng and the main city of the Dark Faction. Past here was the Dark Faction's Salat City. Salat, in the language of rebirth, meant the end of the light. It was also known as the darkness after the afterglow, which was quite appropriate for their geographical location. The Sunset Valley was the border of Yuhuicheng. The monsters here were level 70 or so Sunset Lone Traveler and level 80 Sunset Hero. Both of these monsters were humanoid monsters, and they were of the swordsman class. Their agility and attack power were quite high, and their AI was not weak either. To ordinary players, these monsters were more difficult to spawn than an average boss. They were practically nightmarish existences, but in front of Wang Yu, they were as obedient as children. One had to know that Wang Yu's martial arts were developed for humans. Humanoid monsters with high attack, low defense, and low health were the best targets in Wang Yu's eyes. Even though there was a huge difference in level, Wang Yu was still able to farm them easily. There was no one in this high-level training area. Even if there was, no one would dare to steal monsters from Wang Yu. Moreover, the rewards from high-level monsters were quite high. Looking at the slowly advancing experience bar, Wang Yu felt more and more carefree. I must get my experience to 50% today. Wang Yu made up her mind and used even more strength, hitting the monsters until they cried out in pain, looking very miserable. However, just as Wang Yu was in high spirits, a player suddenly stumbled out of the Sunset Valley. The player had green skin and 2 upturned fangs. It was obvious that she was the ugliest orc race in the game. However, looking at the person's figure, which was very voluptuous, it turned out to be a girl. Seeing the orc, Wang Yu could not help but be stunned for a moment. Meow. Because the orc race was unbearably ugly, they were infamous for not attracting the attention of female players. They were known as the natural enemies of women. He did not expect there to be a girl with such a heavy taste. When the girl saw Wang Yu, she was also slightly stunned. After all, this was a level 70 to 80 training area, and it was rich in humanoid monsters with high attack and agility. For players at this stage of the game, it was an extremely dangerous place. It was somewhat unexpected that there was someone training here. But soon, the girl came to her senses and looked at Wang Yu with a panicked expression. "Can you help me?" Hearing this, Wang Yu subconsciously touched his nose. Chapter 11:16. Although the orcs were a race of the dark faction, Yuhuicheng was now a player's autonomous neutral main city. In theory, Yuhuicheng could accept players of any faction. Hence, the path that Wang Yu had pointed out could be considered a clear path. "Thank you." The female orc nodded gratefully at Wang Yu. Just as she was about to escape in the direction of Yuhuicheng, another group of people rushed out of the valley. There were humans and orcs in that group, and they came in all shapes and sizes. The only similarity was that these people had a strong, murderous aura, and their equipment seemed to be much better than the female orcs. After seeing the female orc, everyone shouted, "That little slut is over there. Don't let her get away." As he spoke, a group of people rushed over. Seeing this, the female orc was shocked. She turned around and ran. From the bow on the female orc's back, it was not difficult to see that she was an archer with the fastest movement speed. Although her level and equipment were not as good as these pursuers, due to her class advantage, her movement speed was not slow at all. In the blink of an eye, she had run not far from Wang Yu. At that time, the pursuers also noticed that there was another person here. They were stunned for a moment, then shouted at Wang Yu, "You, hurry up and stop that girl for me." Whether it was the female orc or these pursuers, Wang Yu did not know them. As for the conflict between them, Wang Yu did not know, nor did he want to know. Hence, with Wang Yu's indifferent personality, he could not be bothered to pay attention to these two groups of people. Hence, when he heard everyone's words, Wang Yu did not even raise his head. He minded his own business and continued to farm as if everything had nothing to do with him. "Hey, are you deaf?" Seeing that Wang Yu was ignoring him, the orc player leading the pursuer's expression turned ugly. He signaled the archer player behind him with his eyes. The archers understood and knocked their arrows. Immediately afterward, magic arrows were shot at the female orc. It was unknown if these fellows were afraid of missing the female orc, or if they wanted to take revenge on Wang Yu for ignoring their words. Half of the arrows in the sky were actually flying towards Wang Yu, who was very close to the female orc. Seeing the arrow flying towards him, Wang Yu could not help but frown. Regardless of whether these pursuers were intentional or unintentional, in Wang Yu's eyes, these fellows' actions were absolutely intentional, killing without a word. It looked like this group of players from the Dark faction was too used to being arrogant. They did not know how to restrain themselves, even after coming to another main city. As the saying went, if she could tolerate it, what could she not? Originally, Wang Yu was already somewhat displeased with the sight of a group of men bullying a young lady. Thinking of the principle that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble, Wang Yu could still endure and not take action. However, now that these players dared to attack her, it was a different matter altogether. In a flash, Wang Yu stretched out his left hand and grabbed the female orc's collar, pulling her behind him. At the same time, his right hand drew a one-handed sword. With a flick of the sword, he quickly thrust it out. Clang, 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 clang. The shadow of the sword flashed, and a series of crisp sounds could be heard. All the arrows flying towards the two of them fell to the ground, while Wang Yu's feet did not even move. Seeing this scene, the scene instantly fell silent. The pursuer's eyes widened, suddenly forgetting to continue shooting arrows. Even the female orc behind Wang Yu could not help but open her mouth wide, as if doubting her own eyes. None of these players were ordinary players. Naturally, they had keen eyesight. The technique of blocking arrows was not considered too difficult. Any expert of a similar level could basically do it. However, it was not easy for someone like Wang Yu to do it so naturally and naturally. Furthermore, Wang Yu did not just deflect one arrow, but more than a dozen. Moreover, his actions were clean and efficient. It was simply shocking. These pursuers were not simple-minded. In the first place, they had to be humble and cautious in someone else's territory. Now that they saw Wang Yu's skills, their originally very arrogant attitude immediately wilted. Of course, if it was just Wang Yu alone, these fellows would not be so afraid. After all, a vicious tiger was afraid of a pack of wolves. However, this was an advanced leveling area. Under normal circumstances, there would be a fixed team to level up here. If there were Wang Yu's helpers nearby, it would be more embarrassing. Thinking of this, the orc leader walked forward, cleared his throat, and said to Wang Yu in a very polite tone, "Brother, we have no grudges in the past, and we have no enmity with each other. You wouldn't want to interfere in our Salate City's internal affairs, would you?" "Not interested." Wang Yu shook his head and said, "In the valley, you can do whatever you want, but this is Yu Huicheng, and Yu Huicheng does not welcome people like you." "Haha." The orc sneered and said, "Do you think we're not welcome just because you say so? Do you think you have the final say in Yu Huicheng?" "That's right." Wang Yu nodded and said, "In Yu Huicheng, I have the final say." "Huh." Hearing Wang Yu's words, everyone could not help but laugh, shouting, "Who do you think you are? You think you have the final say? I'm afraid you've lost your mind." In the minds of ordinary players, the game environment belonged to all players. Even the largest guild in the main city did not have the qualifications to have the absolute right to speak. Even if there was a person who had the final say, it could only be the system. At this time, someone suddenly jumped out and told everyone that Yu Huicheng had the final say. It was inevitable that people would think that this person was sick in the head. "I am Yu Huicheng's city lord, Iron Ox." Wang Yu did not hide his identity and directly revealed his identity. Unexpectedly, when the people in front of him heard this, not only did they not retreat in fear like Wang Yu thought, but they also laughed and said, "Iron Ox. This name is quite familiar. So what if you're city lord Yu Huicheng? Can I go play around in Yu Huicheng?" Seeing everyone's reaction, Wang Yu was dumbfounded. In the past, his name had been quite useful. Why did it not work today? Little did he know that in the era of big data, people had new hot topics every day. Old topics would basically be abandoned every 2 or 3 days. For example, a few days ago, people were arguing with each other over the collapse of a certain singer's image. And these days, people were turning from fans to passersby because of a certain Fresh Meats public relationship. After a few more days, people would probably forget about this matter and go looking for more interesting gossip. It was the same in the game. Coupled with the fact that the game was trending toward popularity, there was a large amount of new blood being injected into the game every day. The topic of discussion was updated even faster than in the real world. The popularity of the Quanjin sect had long been covered up by forum threads, becoming history and legend. Even after a month, a considerable number of players in Yuhuicheng had forgotten about Xuanjin, let alone the players in the main city next door. If the name Iron Ox was familiar, it was already considered that Wang Yu's influence was outstanding. Chapter 11:17. Wang Yu was generally a humble person. Since the others did not know him, he couldn't just run over and tell them about his achievements like a storyteller in a tavern. That would be too low profile and not in line with Wang Yu's temperament. Seeing that these people were unmoved and were still trying to defend themselves, Wang Yu said indifferently, "No. These Salat players dare to chase people all the way to another main city, so they were obviously not easy to deal with." Seeing that Wang Yu was so resolute, everyone's faces became very ugly. After all, the Salat players had a lot of people, and they had a certain sense of belonging. The reason why they did not attack Wang Yu was not because they were afraid of Wang Yu, but because Wang Yu's strength was extraordinary, and he was a local of Yuhuicheng. If they really fought, it would be very troublesome. However, after everyone said good things, Wang Yu still did not give them face, which made the Salat players a little unhappy. In the eyes of the Salat players, Wang Yu's current behavior was like refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. To put it bluntly, it was a classic example of not taking face when given. The orc said with a green face, "It seems that you are determined to make life difficult for us, sir." Seeing that the players who were chasing him were unfriendly and wanted to attack Wang Yu. Before Wang Yu could answer, the female orc who had been standing behind Wang Yu suddenly said to Wang Yu, "No, this has nothing to do with you." With that, the female orc quietly stuffed a black object into Wang Yu's hand, and then rushed towards the players who were chasing him. The female orc was just a fragile archer, a proper long-range profession. Her level and equipment were relatively poor, and at this time, she was naturally not a match for the players. In less than a round, the female orc was beaten into a white light under the indifferent gaze of Wang Yu. After killing the female orc, the Salat players looked provocatively at Wang Yu and said, "So, we killed her. Crazy." Wang Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A group of men ganged up on a woman and you're showing off? I don't even know this orc girl. What does killing her have to do with me? Shaking his head helplessly, Wang Yu ignored the group of idiots and continued to farm monsters. These fellows were only doing this to provoke Wang Yu. Naturally, they weren't really looking for trouble. Now that they saw Wang Yu admit defeat, they calmed down and returned to Salat with their heads held high. Not long after the players left, Wang Yu received a friend request. "Hataki 50/50 has added you as a friend. Do you accept?" Wang Yu was a very down-to-earth person. Seeing that someone had added him as a friend, he accepted without hesitation. Immediately after, Wang Yu received a message from Hataki 50/50. "Big Brother Iron Ox, I'm that orc archer. They didn't steal my token, right?" Token. When Wang Yu saw this message, he suddenly remembered that Hataki Wu Kai had given him a token. So he replied, "No. When will you come to get it?" This, Hataki 50/50 said with some difficulty. "The secret pavilion is hunting me, so I don't dare to go out for a while. Can you help me give the token to the leader of Thousand Wave Temple, the Devil King Fungus?" Devil King Fungus? What kind of stupid name is that? Wang Yu scratched his head and couldn't help but complain. Hataki 50/50 was taken aback. "Don't mind the details. I'll leave it to you, Big Brother Iron Ox." "All right." Wang Yu thought for a moment and said, "I'll mail it over when I return to the city. Have that Devil King Fungus add me as a friend." It was just delivering something. There was a mail system in the game, which was even more convenient than express delivery. Wang Yu was very willing to help others with something as simple as this. Soon, Wang Yu received a friend request from the Devil King Fungus. After adding the Devil King Fungus as a friend, Wang Yu casually replied, "I'll mail it over when I return to the city. Pay attention to your mailbox." "No, But as soon as Wang Yu sent the message, the Devil King Fungus replied, "The secret pavilion is going around capturing our people. I don't dare to send it to my mailbox. Can you send it over?" Seeing the Devil King Fungus message, Wang Yu was immediately put in a difficult position. Wang Yu's time was very valuable now. If he were to return to the city to mail it, it would just be a matter of convenience, and Wang Yu did not mind. However, if he were to deliver the token to Salat, it would be a different story. After all, there was no teleportation formation between Yu Huicheng and Salat City. A round trip would take at least 2 hours. Not to mention Wang Yu. Even the people of Qianjin who had nothing better to do wouldn't waste time on such a long journey. The Devil King Fungus also knew that it was not practical to have someone deliver something from so far away. So he hurriedly added, "Big Brother Iron Ox, I beg of you, as long as you return the token, I won't mistreat you. How about 1,000 gold? This isn't a matter of mistreating me. Big Brother Iron Ox, please, how about 2,000 gold?" This Devil King Fungus was not lacking in money. It was the first time Wang Yu had seen such a high delivery fee for a mere delivery. From the looks of it, as long as he did not agree, he would probably continue shouting. Wang Yu was not a greedy person, but if the Devil King Fungus continued shouting, who knew how high the price would be? At that time, it would seem as if Wang Yu was greedy for someone else's token, which was not very kind. Thus, Wang Yu hesitated for a moment before saying, "All right, but I'm not doing this for money." "I know." The Devil King Fungus smiled. As long as Wang Yu was willing to deliver it, the Devil King Fungus did not care what Wang Yu said. Closing the chat window, Wang Yu carefully took out the token from his bag and studied it. 2,000 gold coins for one trip. Just how valuable was this thing? Thinking, Wang Yu cast a detection spell on it, and the attributes of the token appeared. Dark Order, precious item. Item introduction. Personal item of Great Elder Tyren under the 7th Apostle. It is also an item to activate certain quests. Note, 100% chance of dropping it on death. No wonder it was so valuable. So it was a quest item. After putting away the token, Wang Yu cleared all the mobs in front of him and disappeared from the Sunset Valley. Salat City, inside the office of the secret pavilion. The group that had chased after Hitaki stood dejectedly at the door. A handsome elf player, playing with a dagger in his hand, looked at them and said calmly, "Green Devil, didn't you say that you killed everyone from Thousand Wave Temple?" This person was the guild leader of the secret pavilion, Heaven's Secret. Faced with Heaven's Secret's fingerprint, the orc player that had chased after Hitaki nodded and said, "Yes, I killed them all." "Oh, what about the Dark Order?" Heaven's Secret asked again. This Green Devil thought for a moment and said, "It should be on someone." It didn't drop. Chapter 11:18. A fish that slipped through the net. Green Demon frowned and thought for a moment. "Impossible. Thousand Wave Temple only has a few people. We ambushed them as soon as they obtained the Darkness Decree. None of the players present were spared. How could there be a fish that slipped through the net?" "Oh." Secret Insight raised an eyebrow. Could it be that the Darkness Decree was hidden by our guild's players? After all, it was an item with a 100% drop rate. If it wasn't on the players of Thousand Wave Temple, then it was definitely on the players of the Secret Pavilion. With the Secret Pavilion being such a large guild, it wasn't impossible for there to be a traitor. Seeing through Heaven's Secrets was just a casual remark, but it scared Green Demon badly. He quickly explained, "That's even more impossible. The ones ambushing Thousand Wave Hall are our old subordinates. Furthermore, Thousand Wave Hall is just an underworld organization. They don't have the ability to poach our people." "Yes, you're right." Seeing Heaven's Secrets nodded. When it came to poaching people, one had to have the strength to do so. One couldn't just follow a rich person. The key was to have the ability to protect oneself. Otherwise, if one's identity was exposed, the bribe player and the bribe guild would be in trouble. In terms of reincarnation, the benefits of a large guild were close to that of the real world's middle class. If a small group wanted to poach a member of a large guild, unless that small group had the ability to buy out the player's future, no one would kill the goose that laid golden eggs. The Darkness Decree was something the guilds of Salate fought over, and the Secret Pavilion was the only large guild in Salate City. A small character like Thousand Wave Temple really couldn't poach someone from the Secret Pavilion. Then why is the Darkness Decree gone? Think about it again. Was there any accident at that time? After a moment of contemplation, Insight Heaven's Secrets asked. Unexpected? Green Demon thought for a moment, his expression changing slightly. There was an accident. At the time, there was an archer who wanted to escape, but she didn't. We chased her to Yu Huicheng and killed her. Did she not have the Darkness Decree on her? Secret Insight asked. No. Green Demon shook his head. When we were killing that girl, something unexpected happened. We encountered the City Lord of Yu Huicheng. City Lord Yu Huicheng? Seeing Heaven's Secrets turned pale with fright when he heard that. That legendary Iron Ox? Yes, it's him. At the mention of the legendary Iron Ox, Green Demon revealed a disdainful smile and said, What bullsh asterisk T legendary expert? He's just a coward. We killed that little girl in front of him, and he didn't even dare to fart. It can't be. Hearing Green Demon's words, Heaven's Secret said in disbelief, I heard people say that the kid beat up tens of thousands of Blood Alliance people. How could he be a coward? Did you guys meet a fake Iron Ox? One you could be considered a famous expert. The game was a world where the strong ruled. An expert with such a reputation would definitely have a few tricks up his sleeves. Even if he could take on 10,000 weak players, he should still be able to take on a dozen. How could he be a coward? Hearing Heaven's Secret say that, Green Demon understood something. He awkwardly rubbed his nose and said, I don't know if it's real or fake, but he didn't dare to stop us. Then did he come into contact with the girl you were chasing? Heaven's Secret asked. This. Green Demon furrowed his brows and said, That guy called Iron Ox seemed to have pulled that girl. That's right. Hearing this, Heaven's Secret stabbed the dagger in his hand into the table and said, That girl must have given the token to that guy. Then what should we do? Once Heaven's Secret said this, Green Demon instantly panicked. Whether or not Wang Yu was the real Iron Ox, Yu Huicheng was not their territory. Not to mention the fact that Wang Yu was strolling around the level 70 leveling area, he did not look weak. Even if Wang Yu was just a smurf, as a Dark Faction player, he did not dare to stroll around Yu Huicheng. Since the start of the game, the Setting Sun Mountain Range had been the dividing line between the Light and Dark factions. Although Yu Huicheng was now absolutely neutral, out of habit, the Dark Faction players did not dare to cross the line. Haha! Unexpectedly, Heaven's Secret laughed and said, There's no rush. We just need to know who has the token. Anyway, that thing can only be used in Salad. But we can't use it even if we can't get it back. Green Demon had a conflicted expression. Don't worry, Heaven's Secret said with a smile. The girls from Thousand Wave Temple are definitely more anxious than us. They will definitely think of a way to get the token. Get the token? The boss of Thousand Wave Temple is currently blocked by our people at the resurrection point. Are we going to let her out? Green Demon asked. There's no need for that. Heaven's Secret shook his head. Thousand Wave Temple may not be big, but it's not small either. We only ambushed a small portion of them. It's just going to Yu Huicheng to get something. Do we need the guild leader to do it personally? Then, boss, what do you mean? It's very simple. Heaven's Secret said calmly. There are only two ways to send something across a faction's main city. One is to trade face-to-face, and the other is to send it through a mailbox. You just need to arrange for people to guard the mailbox and Golden Water City, the only road between Yu Huicheng and Salad. Boss, you're amazing, Green Demon said flatteringly. In that case, I'll bring people to guard the Golden Water Bridge. Hee hee. Inside Heaven's Secret smiled faintly and said, Don't make any more mistakes this time. Green Demon patted his chest and guaranteed, Don't worry, boss. We promise we won't let those noobs from Thousand Wave Temple cross the bridge. Everyone, follow me. With that, Green Demon led his subordinates out of the office. Looking at Green Demon's back as he left, Heaven's Secret picked up the dagger on the table again and said to the air beside him, Unpredictable. Follow him and take a look. At that moment, a voice came from the air. Why? You suspect Green Demon? That's not it. Heaven's Secret said, "This kid is too careless. I'm afraid he'll make another mistake." Although Yu Huicheng and Salat were neighbors, this was the first time Wang Yu had come here. In a background story, the ending of the War of Gods and Demons was actually quite happy. The Darkness faction was forced to the more barren side of the continent by the Light and Neutral factions. But no matter how barren the continent was, it was still fertile compared to the Demon's Hell. Therefore, the history of each faction ended with their side winning, which was a rather satisfactory ending. Chapter 11:19. Due to the geographical location of Salat City, the area from the city gate to the Sunset Valley was a bow-shaped plain known as the Nightmare Plains. This geographical location allowed for a wide field of vision, and it also served as a strategic buffer. Of course, in this era of firearms, I doubt you're interested in how useful this geographical location is in a war, so this old man won't say much. The reason why he had spouted so much nonsense was to inform everyone that there was an extremely wide moat outside Salat City. Not far from the city gate, there was a bridge facing Salat City. This bridge was the only road from Salat to the Nightmare Plain. It was also the legendary Golden Water Bridge. After leaving the guild office, Green Goblin led a group of people to the Golden Water Bridge and stood side by side at the bridgehead. The Golden Water Bridge wasn't very wide, so Green Goblin's group blocked the bridge completely. The Secret Pavilion was the most powerful guild in Salat City and had a bad reputation. As the Secret Pavilion's management, Green Goblin was also quite famous in Salat City. At this moment, he led a group of people to block the road with a fierce expression. The passing players quickly retreated, some even reaching the bridge. When they saw the Secret Pavilion's people blocking the road, they hurriedly turned back. After all, there were many leveling areas in Salat City, not just the Nightmare Plains. There was no need to offend the Secret Pavilion over such a trivial matter. One had to admit that divine insight was very useful. With the Secret Pavilion's people standing guard here, they completely separated Salat City from Yu Huicheng. The 1,000 Wave Temple players were completely blocked in the city, unable to leave even if they wanted to. Leading people to block the city gate was no small matter. News spread quickly in the game, and it didn't take long for all the players in Salat City to hear about the Secret Pavilion's blockade of the Golden Water Bridge. Even Wang Yu received news of the Devil Fungus. "Nyoga, where are you?" When Wang Yu saw the message, he looked around and replied, "I can already see your city gate." Very quickly, the Devil Fungus replied, "All right, you can go back now." WTF? Seeing the Devil King Fungus's reply, Wang Yu's head was full of black question marks. "Why?" Wang Yu asked, a little displeased. "Meow, I've already walked all the way from Yu Huicheng to the gates of Salat City. If I turn back now, are you kidding me?" Although Wang Yu was kind-hearted, no matter how good-tempered he was, he would still feel uncomfortable playing tricks on people like this. "That," the Devil King Fungus cautiously said, "the people from the Secret Pavilion are blocking the city gates. I'm afraid they'll make things difficult for you. You should hurry back." In reality, players would only lose some EXP if they died. The loss wasn't particularly significant. The reason why Demon Fungus had tried so hard to persuade Wang Yu to return was because the Darkness Decree in Wang Yu's hands was a certain drop rate item. If Wang Yu died, he would die. However, if the Secret Pavilion's members snatched the Darkness Decree, the losses would outweigh the gains. However, when Wang Yu heard Devil Fungus's words, he smiled faintly and said, "Oh, I thought it was something important. Send me your coordinates. I'll be there soon." "Huh?" The Devil King Fungus froze when he saw the message. Then he hurriedly said, "Big brother, are you going to barge in?" "Is there a problem?" Wang Yu asked. That's the Secret Pavilion's people," the Devil King Fungus reminded again. "Oh, so what?" Wang Yu's tone remained unperturbed. "So what?" The Devil King Fungus's heart sank. He then asked, "Don't tell me you've never heard of the Secret Pavilion." "No." Wang Yu's reply was very honest. The Secret Pavilion wasn't a famous large guild, and Wang Yu was a noob at the game. Even if it was a large guild, he wouldn't recognize it. "Crap. Seeing Wang Yu's reply, the Devil King fungus crumbled. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. In any case, don't come. I'll find someone to go to Yu Huicheng. Cut the crap and give me the coordinates. Wang Yu said, ignoring the Devil King Fungus's string of messages. Fortunately, Wang Yu was a man of his word. If it weren't for the fact that Wang Yu had warned him beforehand, Wang Yu wouldn't even want to talk to the Devil King Fungus anymore. Right now, Wang Yu only had one thought: return the token, leave, and never contact him again. The Devil King Fungus was startled by Wang Yu's sudden attitude. He could not help but reply, I'm at the resurrection point. Wait. After replying, Wang Yu closed the chat window and continued in the direction of Salat City. It didn't take long before he saw the Golden Water Bridge and the green goblins on it. Salat City also had players grinding in the Nightmare Plane. However, news of the secret pavilion blocking the road at the bridge had long since spread throughout the city. Therefore, when people saw the secret pavilion players standing on the bridge, they stayed far away, not daring to approach. On the other hand, Wang Yu walked on the bridge with his head lowered. Seeing someone fearlessly charging forward, the players who were blocked at the bridge exclaimed, who is this kid? Doesn't he know that the secret pavilion is blocking the road ahead? I don't know. Looking at his silly look, he should be a newbie. TSK. He's still young. At that moment, Lumo's group also saw Wang Yu in the distance. Although they were too far away and couldn't see his face clearly, everyone else was at the bridge, not daring to come over. Only Wang Yu walked onto the bridge alone, immediately attracting the attention of Lumo's group. So, the green goblin shouted at Wang Yu, Hey, this road is blocked. Do you know that? Get lost. Wang Yu ignored the green goblins and walked forward. Hey, you want to stand out? Don't listen, hey. Seeing that Wang Yu had no intention of paying attention to him, the green goblins immediately lost his composure. He unsheathed his weapon and angrily broke away from the group, walking toward Wang Yu. But after a few steps, the green goblins saw Wang Yu's appearance clearly. So it's you? Seeing Wang Yu's appearance, the green goblins was startled. Then, a look of joy appeared on his face. This was what it meant to wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. No matter how long the secret pavilion's hands were, they did not dare to cross the main city to reach out to Yu Huicheng. Therefore, the green goblins and the others were only blocking the 1,000 Wave Temple's people, preventing them from going to Yu Huicheng to get the token. Who would have thought that instead of the 1,000 Wave Temple's people, they would see Wang Yu with the token? This was truly an unexpected harvest. Of course, the green goblins had seen Wang Yu's skills and knew that he would not be able to fight him one-on-one. After the pleasant surprise, he hurriedly retreated to the secret pavilion's formation and pointed at Wang Yu, shouting, Everyone, surround him. We can't let him escape this time. Chapter 1121. Wang Yu and the green goblins were only one bridge away from each other. With the movement speed of the in-game characters, even the slowest tank classes could reach them in an instant. Soon, everyone surrounded Wang Yu tightly. However, Green Demon also knew that Wang Yu was skilled. If he attacked directly, he would inevitably suffer losses. Thus, Green Demon walked over with a smile and said, I was wondering why you look familiar. So it's you. Did you know that this bridge has been sealed? Having just met Green Demon, Wang Yu naturally recognized Green Demon's group. He knew that Green Demon was deliberately making things difficult for him. So he replied indifferently, The bridge is sealed? Who made that rule? He. Green Demon sneered. Since you have the final say, Yu Huicheng, then I have the final say in Salat. The logic is the same. It's not the same. Wang Yu shook his head and asked, Are you the city lord? Green Demon was stunned. Wasn't that right? Wang Yu dared to say that he had the final say, because Wang Yu was the system's certified city lord of Yu Huicheng and had absolute authority. Green Demon was just an ordinary player. No matter how powerful the secret pavilion was, he did not have the authority to command the entire city, let alone be compared to the city lord. Was he worthy? After being stunned for a moment, Green Demon shamelessly said, What does it have to do with you whether I'm the city lord or not? You can't cross this bridge anyway." As he spoke, the people surrounding Wang Yu took another step forward and closed the encirclement, ready for battle. Wang Yu glanced at the crowd from the corner of her eyes and calmly asked, "What if I insist on passing?" "You can cross." Green Demon extended his hand in front of Wang Yu and said, "As long as you hand over the Dark Order, no one will care if you sleep on the bridge. I'm not afraid to tell you that this is Salat, not Yu Huicheng. There's no benefit in going against the secret pavilion." The Dark Law. Wang Yu immediately understood what Lu Mo and the others meant. He couldn't help sneering. "That thing is on me, but why should I give it to you?" "Why?" Hearing Wang Yu's words, Green Demon knew that Wang Yu did not want to be merciful. His expression darkened as he said, "Based on this." As he spoke, Green Demon raised the greatsword in his hand and slashed at Wang Yu. At the same time, the Secret Pavilion's players surrounding Wang Yu also took action. Seeing the Secret Pavilion's players make their move, Wang Yu calmly took a step forward. Before the Green Demon's greatsword could land on his body, he had already arrived before the Green Demon, coming face to face with him. Although a warrior was a melee class, the greatsword in his hand was a two-handed weapon. If a Grandmaster of Combat or Assassin cut in during an attack, the warrior would not be able to defend in time, and the outcome would be extremely awkward. Of course, there were only a handful of players who had the ability and courage to cut in front of a warrior while he was attacking. Seeing Wang Yu suddenly appear before him, Green Demon jumped in fright. He wanted to retract his weapon, but it was too late. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu pressed down on Green Demon's right shoulder with his left hand and grabbed his wrist with his right. He pressed his pinky against the Green Demon's wrist and pushed up with his thumb. Green Demon immediately felt his hand go numb, and his weapon slipped out of his hand. Weapons were more important to gamers than any other equipment. Green Demon was dumbfounded when his weapon was knocked out of his hand. He subconsciously rushed forward to snatch it back. However, just as Green Demon jumped up, Wang Yu's right hand casually slapped behind him, hitting the hilt of his sword. Green Demon's greatsword was hit again, brushing past the face of the shield warrior behind Wang Yu and stabbing into the head of an archer at the back of the formation. It was common knowledge that the attack of a thrown weapon was calculated based on the attack power of the thrower. With this slap from Wang Yu, Green Demon's greatsword was equivalent to being thrown by Wang Yu. Wang Yu's attack power was so high that even a shield warrior with thick skin and flesh couldn't take it, let alone an archer with low HP. The greatsword stabbed into the archer's head. The archer didn't even get a chance to groan before he turned into white light. The greatsword also fell under the bridge without any resistance. At that moment, Wang Yu retracted his right hand and grabbed Green Demon's collar. He extended his left hand and clamped onto Green Demon's waist. He spun around and spun Green Demon around. Bang, 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 bang. A series of muffled sounds rang out as the attacks of every member of the secret pavilion landed on the Green Fiend. The pitiful Green Fiend was smashed into a streak of white light, and the Green Fiend followed the archer. Before it died, it looked in the direction of the falling weapon with a longing gaze. Shield Bash and Charge were the starting attack skills of shield warriors. They were also one of the control skills with the highest priority. After successfully blocking these two skills with Green Demon, the shield warriors just happened to enter Wang Yu's attack range. It was quite terrifying to be closed in by a Grandmaster of Combat. The shield warriors looked at each other and were about to retreat in panic. At this moment, Wang Yu leaped up and kicked with a ball of flames wrapped around his leg. Flame Tornado Kick. The shield warriors who had only run a few steps away were immediately sucked into Wang Yu's feet. Wang Yu's damage was so high that everyone's HP dropped by half after taking Wang Yu's Flame Tornado Kick head-on. All the shield warriors were dumbfounded. Both of them were level 50 tanks. Even without defense, they had at least 100,000 HP. On the other hand, Wang Yu was merely a Grandmaster of Combat. Yet, a single skill from her had shaved away over half of her HP. Such high attack power was simply unheard of. At that time, Wang Yu landed after casting Flame Tornado Kick. Boom! With a thunderous sound, A circle of lightning spread out from under Wang Yu. Everyone from the secret pavilion trembled, and in the next second, they appeared in the resurrection point of the rant. After resurrecting, everyone was confused. After playing as shield warriors for so many years, instant kills had always been extremely far away from them. However, this was definitely the worst gaming experience they had ever had. Did we get insta-kill? A shield warrior looked at his brothers around him, finding it a little hard to accept this fact. Another shield warrior patted his shoulder and said, "No, we didn't get insta-killed. We got insta-killed by a Grandmaster of Combat." F***CK. Everyone was stunned again. If they had been insta-killed by a mage who went all out and was a cannon, they would definitely be speechless. However, what was a Grandmaster of Combat? They were a bunch of trash who didn't even have a weapon specialization. Their attack power was a joke. How could such a trash class insta-kill someone? Everyone couldn't help but doubt their lives. At this moment, on the Golden Water Bridge, everyone was shocked when they saw Wang Yu send all the tanks back to the city in a single round. This was especially true for the survivors of the secret pavilion. They broke out in a cold sweat. Damn it, he had insta-killed a bunch of tanks with a raise of his hand. Was this bastard cheating? As they thought about this, the remaining players of the secret pavilion involuntarily retreated. Chapter 11:22. Soon, the passers-by by the bridge came to their senses and pointed at Wang Yu in surprise. F***CK, what was that skill just now? How could it kill a shield warrior? Since when did Salet have such a person? The main city in Rebirth was actually about the size of a town in real life. Although there were many people, it was mainly because of the concentration of players. Therefore, if there were a few experts in each main city, everyone would be excited to talk about them. It was impossible for someone like Wang Yu, who could kill a tank in one hit, to be unknown. It looks like it's flaming tornado kick. At this moment, someone in the crowd said. However, that person's voice was not loud, and he spoke cautiously as if he was not sure. In fact, flaming tornado kick was one of the signature skills of Grandmasters of Combat. It was a very recognizable skill. The reason why no one recognized it was because no one dared to easily believe that a mere Grandmaster of Combat's damage could be so high that it could kill someone in one hit. When someone said it was this skill, someone immediately retorted, "Are you kidding me? A Grandmaster of Combat can kill someone in one hit? Is there *T in your brain?" That's hard to say. Didn't you hear the people from the secret pavilion say that this big guy is not from our city? He seems to be from another main city. From another main city? Some veteran players heard this, and their expressions changed. Could he be from our neighbor, Yuhuicheng? Yes, he seems to be from something called Hui City. F***CK. So it's him. No wonder. The veteran players heard this and immediately understood. Grandmasters of Combat were a weak class, but it did not mean that all Grandmasters of Combat were weak, especially in the main cities that were close to Yuhuicheng. Any player who had played since the open beta would not forget the fear of being dominated by a certain Grandmaster of Combat. It would be shocking for other Grandmasters of Combat to kill their opponents in one hit, but it was only reasonable and expected for him. Thinking of this, the veteran players suddenly looked like they were watching a show. They touched their chins and said, this is going to be fun. The secret pavilion is going to have a hard time. What do you mean? The new players did not experience that era. Seeing the expressions of the veteran players, they could not help but be curious. You guys haven't been to the forum to dig graves, right? No, dig more and you'll find some history. The old players were full of superiority. At the same time, the secret pavilion's players also realized that Iron Ox wasn't a fake. The rumors they had heard before were most likely true. After all, in the eyes of ordinary people, there was not much difference between fighting against 10,000 and killing a tank in an instant. When encountering such a ruthless person, it was best not to show off. A qualified martial artist must control their desire to fight. Wang Yu was not a bloodthirsty person, nor was he interested in bullying ordinary people. Moreover, Salet was not Yu Huicheng, so it was inconvenient for him to have too many PK points. Seeing the secret pavilion's players retreating, Wang Yu retracted his combat stance and asked calmly, "Can I leave now?" The secret pavilion's players remained silent. Looking at the friendly Wang Yu, they quickly leaned against the bridge's railing, opening up a path for Wang Yu. It seemed that even if these guys didn't say anything, their bodies were still very honest. "Thank you." Wang Yu politely cupped his fists and continued forward. However, after taking only a few steps, Wang Yu suddenly stopped. Seeing that Wang Yu had stopped moving, the secret pavilion's players exclaimed and hurriedly retreated. Then, they heard Wang Yu turn his head and say, "You still won't give up?" "I don't dare. I don't dare." Hearing this, the secret pavilion's players repeatedly waved their hands as they retreated. Wang Yu raised his head and pointed at the air, saying, "I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about him." A string of question marks appeared in everyone's minds. Suddenly, Wang Yu extended his hand and pulling an assassin out of thin air. The assassin was thin and small, and his face was covered, making it impossible to see his appearance. When Wang Yu grabbed him, the assassin was holding a dagger. The assassin should have been about to attack. However, when Wang Yu pulled him out of thin air, his eyes filled with shock. Wang Yu didn't find the assassin's shock strange at all. After all, every assassin Wang Yu had pulled him out of thin air had the same expression. However, this skinny assassin's reaction was extremely fast. Without waiting for Wang Yu to pull him in front of her, the assassin's other hand also took out a dagger. He stomped on the ground, took a few steps forward, and regained control of his body. He then turned his body, and the dagger slashed towards Wang Yu's wrist at a strange angle. If it were an ordinary assassin, they would definitely take this attack head-on and then pull him over to stab him in return. Every stab would draw blood, both hot-blooded and effective. However, Wang Yu was a martial artist. Out of instinct, when faced with such an attack, he would naturally avoid the opponent's attack. So when he saw the skinny assassin extend his dagger, Wang Yu instinctively let go of the assassin's wrist. After forcing Wang Yu back, the assassin didn't stop. Immediately after, he held the dagger in his right hand horizontally in front of him and stabbed the dagger in his left hand at Wang Yu's chest. Seeing this, Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "An expert." The assassin's left dagger was ferocious, and the dagger in his right hand was ready to strike. Although it looked like an ordinary stab, it was actually extremely dangerous. There weren't many assassins who wielded dual daggers to begin with, and those who could wield dual daggers to such a level were even rarer. Of course, in Wang Yu's eyes, the difference between an expert and a beginner was very simple. Those who could be killed by him in one move were collectively known as opponents, while those who could last a few rounds under his hands were known as experts. In fact, regardless of whether the opponent was an expert, the nature was basically the same. It was just a matter of surviving for a few more seconds. Seeing that the assassin's dagger was about to stab into his chest, Wang Yu didn't panic. He tilted his body slightly and dodged the assassin's left-hand attack. At the same time, he activated the Grandmaster of Combat's ramming skill, Iron Mountain Backrest. Bang! Wang Yu's shoulder rammed into the assassin's chest. The assassin's right hand, which had been ready to strike, was directly knocked into his own body, and he almost slit his own neck. Although Iron Mountain Backrest didn't have much attack power, its priority was still very high. Moreover, it had a knockback effect. Assassins didn't have any high-priority skills, so when he was rammed by Wang Yu, he was sent flying several meters. The assassin's skills were clearly not bad either. With a somersault in the air, he canceled out the impact of Wang Yu's attack. Then, he landed on one knee and pressed his right hand against the ground. His movements were quite agile. At this time, Wang Yu also noticed the guild emblem on the assassin's chest. It was actually the same as the secret pavilion's players. Thus, he said with some surprise, "I didn't expect the secret pavilion to have an expert like you." "Oomph." The assassin coldly snorted. "The legendary Iron Ox is only SOSO. My name is Unpredictable. Remember my name." Chapter 1123. Unpredictable's destiny had just seen Wang Yu defeat Green Goblin and the others in one move. so he had some understanding of Wang Yu's strength. However, not only did he dare to sneak attack, but he also dared to mock Wang Yu. From this, it could be seen that Unpredictable's destiny was also quite a conceited guy. As soon as Wang Yu's voice fell, Unpredictable's face suddenly became very ugly. Arrogant, embarrassed, and resentful, Unpredictable's destiny shouted angrily, raised his hands, and threw a row of flying knives straight at Wang Yu. Interesting. Seeing Unpredictable's flying knives, a playful smile appeared on Wang Yu's face. Flying knives were secondary weapons, and Wang Yu was quite familiar with the settings of secondary weapons. For professions other than archers, although the damage of secondary weapons was considerable, without the shooting assistance of the system, secondary weapons were at most a restraining tool. However, Unpredictable's flying knives all flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu practiced kung fu and was at the top level in the industry, so he was naturally proficient in hidden weapons. From Unpredictable's throwing method, although there was some shadow of an insider, it was not difficult to see that it was just a form. However, even Wang Yu had to admit that it was not easy for him to throw out a row of flying daggers in one go and aim at a single target. After all, throwing multiple hidden weapons at the same target at one time required extremely high control of wrist strength. Not only must the force be evenly distributed, but also the distance between the target and the target must be calculated. However, Heavenly Secret's Unfathomable had done it with a casual toss. From this, it could be seen that this guy did not rely on real kung fu, but his secondary weapon. His secondary weapon was actually supported by the system. From a game perspective, an assassin with long-range support was basically equivalent to an archer who knew how to go invisible. It was nothing more than a shorter range. Just think about it. An archer doesn't need to rely on the terrain to silently attack a target from behind. Just how terrifying would that be? Such a class setting is simply like a bug. No wonder TNG Unpredictable is so confident. It seems that this kid really has his own confidence. Of course, the mysteries of the heavens were hard to fathom. His blind confidence had picked the wrong target this time. What did Wang Yu do? Kung Fu master. Ever since he was a teenager, Wang Yu had been challenging people all over the world. What kind of hidden weapons expert had Wang Yu not seen? What kind of weapon was Wang Yu not proficient in? Even if the real hidden weapons experts of the Tang sect of Shu came, they wouldn't dare to show off in front of Wang Yu, let alone Unpredictable Heaven Secret. Wang Yu was only a few meters away from Wang Yu. The flying daggers arrived in front of Wang Yu in the blink of an eye. Wang Yu had a well-thought-out plan, so he took a small step back. At the same time, he waved his hand from left to right and effortlessly caught all the flying daggers in his hand. Unpredictable, who had already prepared the second wave of flying daggers to shoot at Wang Yu, was stunned when he saw this scene. The flying dagger in his hand almost fell to the ground. This is impossible. Looking at Wang Yu, who was looking at him with a playful smile, the originally calm, Unpredictable Heavenly Secrets broke out in a cold sweat. Wang Yu smiled slightly and said indifferently, "Young man, hidden weapons don't play like this." As he spoke, Wang Yu raised his hand and threw back the flying daggers that were unpredictable by the heavens. Unpredictable TNG didn't have Wang Yu's martial arts skills, so he naturally couldn't catch the flying dagger. Before Unpredictable TNG could dodge, the flying dagger had already pierced into his wrist, ankle, neck, and chest. Because the flying daggers were throwing items, their attributes were the same as arrows. After being caught by Wang Yu and thrown out, there was no damage, so Unpredictable only forcefully lost 6 HP. But this time, the Heavenly Secret's Unfathomable stood there in a daze, his face ashen. He did not die, but his heart died. After being stunned for a full 3 seconds, Unpredictable asked in disbelief, Could this be the legendary Plum Blossom 6 degrees? What Wang Yu said was right. Hidden weapons were not meant to be used in unpredictable ways. The essence of hidden weapons lay in the element of surprise. Once they were thrown, the target would not know where they would be hit next. In a situation like this, a true hidden weapons master would definitely attack different parts of the target. Just like unpredictable, throwing so many flying daggers at the same point was purely for show. From a technical point of view, it was meaningless. Plum Blossom 6 Degrees was the highest realm of hidden weapons. It could be thrown at different parts of the body at the same time, catching the target off guard and killing them silently. However, the Plum Blossom 6 Degrees was only a legend. Nowadays, even those who use hidden weapons were starting to doubt whether the limits of the human body could really reach this realm. Moreover, Tianji was just a layman who had only learned a few moves. Now that he saw Wang Yu's technique, Unpredictable's mood was obvious. That's right. Wang Yu nodded his head and asked, "What do you think? Do you still want to play?" Unpredictable's face turned red, and he lowered his head. What a joke. He had been tested out by his opponent the moment he made a move, but Wang Yu's move was clean and neat, unfathomable. If this didn't scare Unpredictable Heavenly Secrets, then it could only be said that Unpredictable Heavenly Secrets didn't know how to adapt to circumstances. Subduing the enemy without fighting was the highest realm of martial arts. After successfully shocking Unfathomable, Wang Yu turned around and walked towards Salat City. Looking at Wang Yu's back as she left, Unpredictable Heaven sighed and sent a message to Insightful Heaven. "Boss, the mission has failed." "What?" After a while, Unpredictable replied, "What's the situation? We can't beat them." Unpredictable was a straightforward guy, and he simply replied with 3 words. "Are you kidding me?" Inside Heaven's Secrets exclaimed, "You think you can't beat those girls from Thousand Wave Hall? Even heroes can't resist the charms of beauties?" "No," Unpredictable explained. "Thousand Wave Hall didn't send anyone to Yu Huicheng. Instead, Yu Huicheng sent someone to deliver them personally. It's that Iron Ox. I can't beat him. Iron Ox delivered them." Seeing the Unpredictable Heavenly Secrets message, Heavenly Secrets was dumbfounded. The great Afterglow City Lord actually ran all the way here to be a delivery boy for a bunch of chicks? Does he even have the awareness of an expert? Although Yu Huicheng and Salat were neighbors, because they belonged to different factions, the teleportation formation could not be used. If he wanted to visit, he could only walk, and it would take at least an hour to walk back and forth. For expert players, time was extremely valuable. No one would waste an hour on strangers, not to mention acting as a delivery boy for a group of girls. Seeing Heaven's Secret had been waiting for the Thousand Wave Hall disciples to walk into his trap. He hadn't expected the big bad wolf to show up to serve him. Chapter 1124. Heaven's Secret was an old player who had heard of Wang Yu's name since the game had officially started. Durant was so close to Yu Huicheng, so there was no way Heaven's Secret wouldn't know about Xuanjin. Originally, Heaven's Secret had asked Green Demon to block the road on the Golden Water Bridge in order to stop the people from Thousand Wave Hall. Wang Yu's sudden interference had directly disrupted Heaven's Secret's plans. In the face of this sudden disruption, even Heavenly Secrets was at a loss as to what to do. Then, what should we do next? Seeing Heaven's Secret not say anything, Unfathomable Heaven asked weakly. Seeing Heaven's Secret receive the news, he pondered for a moment before solemnly asking, "I've only heard of Iron Bull's power before, but I've never fought him before." "You just fought with that grandson. How many people do you think we need to defeat him?" "Oh." Unfathomable Heaven's Secret thought for a moment and said with lingering fear, "Can we not fight? Even if we all attack together, we can't beat him?" Seeing Unfathomable Heaven's Secret's message, Heaven's Secret asked in shock, "Could the rumors be true? This guy alone was an army?" "That's not it." Unfathomable Heaven said, "No matter how strong he is, he's only one person. He definitely isn't our opponent in a head-on fight. But do you think there's a point in provoking him?" You're right." Heaven's Secret nodded his head. Heaven's Secret Pavilion wasn't a famous guild. Normally, they could only do whatever they wanted in places like Salat. They couldn't compare to an old guild like Blood Alliance. An expert like Wang Yu was definitely not someone they could afford to offend. Putting aside Wang Yu and his group, even a small group like the Quanjin sect could cause a lot of trouble in the Secret Heaven Pavilion if they really wanted to play dirty tricks, let alone someone like Wang Yu. if they really angered Wang Yu and there was a city war. Sky Dragon City was a living example. Provoking Wang Yu definitely wasn't a wise choice. It seems we can only make a move on Thousand Wave Hall, Secret Insight said after a moment of contemplation. Who didn't know how to bully pushovers? They didn't dare to offend Wang Yu, but did they not dare to offend Thousand Wave Hall? Salat and Yu Huicheng were in the same faction, and a weak guild like Thousand Wave Temple shouldn't have anything to do with Wang Yu. Although he didn't know why Wang Yu had come to Thousand Wave Hall to deliver something, if he really wanted to attack Thousand Wave Hall, Wang Yu probably wouldn't stop him. After all, this was Salat City. If Wang Yu were to forcefully intervene in the internal conflicts of other main cities, it would be inexcusable. Salat's guards would not agree to it. That makes sense. Unfathomable nodded, then hurriedly said, since that's the case, hurry up and guard the resurrection point. Once he enters the city, he'll definitely make a deal with Thousand Wave Temple's guild leader. I'll be there shortly. And unfathomable knowledge responded. He stood up and left the guild office. After calling out to the guild, he made a beeline for the resurrection point. At the same time, Wang Yu had already entered Salat City. Wang Yu's sense of direction wasn't particularly strong. Naturally, he wouldn't wander around in such an unfamiliar main city. After having the Demon King Fungus send him a coordinate, Wang Yu took to the air and quickly arrived at the resurrection point before unfathomable knowledge could. Thousand Wave Temple was a very unique guild. The guild's players were all female. In the game, there was no difference between male and female characters in terms of attributes. However, women were ultimately women. It was inevitable that they would be treated as a disadvantaged group. The women of Thousand Wave Temple, on the other hand, believed that they were strong and did not need to be pitted. Thus, Thousand Wave Temple had a second major characteristic. All of its players were beastmen. This was also why the Secret Pavilion would bully Thousand Wave Temple. In this era, where people judged people by their appearance, no one treated Thousand Wave Temple's players as women. Thousand Wave Temple's players also knew that they were no match for the Secret Pavilion. After being killed, they obediently gathered at the Archer's resurrection point and did not go out to die. When Wang Yu arrived at the resurrection point, according to the Demon King Fungus's coordinates, the first thing he saw was a group of lush green beastman girls. The girls were all strangely ugly, but all of them were curvaceous. It couldn't be helped. One couldn't do anything about their faces, so they could only adjust their figures. It was in women's nature to love beauty. Seeing this group of strange girls, Wang Yu immediately understood why this guild was called Thousand Wave Temple. Big Brother Iron Ox, you're here. In the end, archers had better eyesight. As soon as Wang Yu entered the resurrection point, Hataki Wu rushed over and grabbed Wang Yu's arm. Her fangs kept rubbing against Wang Yu's body. From afar, it looked like a monster gnawing on a human. It was a very strange scene. You really came in? At this moment, a clear voice came from behind Wang Yu. Hearing someone speak to him, Wang Yu turned around and saw a Beastman Grandmaster of Combat standing not far behind him, his eyes filled with disbelief. This Beastman was different from the other players of Thousand Wave Temple. The others basically inherited the characteristics of Beastmen, with a slender waist and long legs. This Beastman, on the other hand, was extremely short and chubby. His height was no different from that of a 12-year-old child. He didn't have fangs, and his chest was flat. Facing this Beastman, Wang Yu couldn't tell whether it was a man or a woman at first glance. MHM. Wang Yu nodded. Then he asked Hataki Wu in confusion. She's our guild leader, the Demon King Fungus. Hataki Wu introduced to Wang Yu. Your guild leader is a child? Wang Yu was surprised. Rebirth was a game that only prevented players from getting addicted to the game. There were no age restrictions, and it wasn't like there weren't any children. However, the guild leader was still a leader. Letting a child be the guild leader was a little childish. Seeing that Wang Yu dared to look down on her, the Demon King Fungus immediately jumped up and shouted, "Who are you calling a child? I'm 18 years old this year." Girl? Wang Yu was stunned again. He asked Hataki Wu in a low voice, "Is she a girl?" She can't be a boy in disguise, right? The little brats nowadays, each and every one of them hadn't even grown out all their hair, but their courage for lust wasn't small at all. Putting aside the distant ones, parting AO was a living example. To place one's pride, little bro's dream was to collect a bunch of long-legged, big-breasted girls for his harem. Now, looking at the demon king fungus who had turned his dream into reality, he felt that the younger generation would surpass the older generation. What are you talking about? Hataki Wuwu was speechless. She's our big sis. Don't talk nonsense. Wang Yu rubbed his nose awkwardly. At this moment, the demon king fungus asked again, "Isn't the secret pavilion blocking the road? How did you get in?" Wang Yu made a walking gesture with his finger and said, "I walked in. TSK." The demon king fungus curled her lips. "Forget it if you don't want to tell me. Where's my stuff?" Wang Yu took out the dark order from his pocket and waved it in front of the demon king fungus. "It's here. Give it to me." The demon king fungus' eyes lit up when she saw the dark order, and she immediately pounced over. Chapter 1125. Wang Yu was not a person who was particularly attached to money. It was just that the Devil King mushroom was not very sensible. After all, Wang Yu had taken time out of his busy schedule to make a trip to Salat City. On his way there, he had even offended Salat City's local guild, the Secret Pavilion. Not to mention a great expert like Wang Yu. Even if it was anyone else, they would still have to exchange the goods after they had already agreed on the price. Not only did this girl not mention the matter of money, but she was also suspicious of Wang Yu. Now, she was snatching the token from Wang Yu's hands without saying a word. Fortunately, Wang Yu had a good temper. If it were someone else, they would have already fallen out with her. Of course, they were currently in the safe zone, so Wang Yu could not touch the Devil King fungus. However, if the item was in Wang Yu's hands, and it was so easily snatched away, Wang Yu might as well give up being an expert. Seeing that Wang Yu and the Devil King fungus were fighting, Hataki 50/50 was stunned. It could not be helped. Hataki 50/50 was the one who found Wang Yu, and the person that Wang Yu captured was his guild leader. The two of them fought as soon as they met. So Hataki 50/50 was the most awkward of all. For a moment, Hataki 50/50 looked at Wang Yu, and then at the Devil King fungus, completely at a loss. It was common knowledge that Wang Yu was tall and sturdy, while the Devil King fungus was rather small. When Wang Yu mentioned it, the Devil King fungus was like a stray cat that had its neck grabbed. It instantly lost its footing, and its short limbs kept flailing in the air. As it struggled, it shouted, "Be ***, let go of me. 50/50, look at the kind of people you know." Hearing the Devil King fungus's words, Wang Yu's expression turned even uglier. "Meow. I came all the way here to deliver something to this stinking brat." Not only did this brat go back on her words, but she even said such malicious words. She really needs to be taught a lesson. If I don't teach her a lesson, she will think that the world revolves around her. At this moment, Hataki Wu Kai saw that the Demon King fungus was really getting anxious, and he hurriedly tried to persuade him. "Brother Iron Ox, let's talk this out. Please let our guild leader go, I beg of you." Everyone knew that Wang Yu was not someone with a heart of stone. On the contrary, this kid had always been good-natured and was famous for being amenable to coaxing but not coercion. The tougher his attitude was, the more Wang Yu liked to confront him head-on. However, when Shimu opened his mouth to ask for help, Wang Yu's ears immediately softened. Wang Yu's expression froze when he heard this, and he casually threw the Demon King fungus on the ground. After all, they were in the safe zone. Even if Wang Yu did not release the Demon King fungus, he could not do anything to her. At most, he would just criticize her verbally. With how clumsy Wang Yu was, it would be embarrassing for him to bicker with a little brat like the Demon King fungus. Secondly, it was hard to tell who would be the one educating who. Moreover, Wang Yu could not bear to let Shimu Wu Kai lose face, so he might as well do her a favor. After the Demon King fungus landed on the ground, she walked to Chimu Wu Kai's side with a green face. She pointed at Chimu Wu Kai and scolded, You piece of trash. I asked you to protect the Dark Order, but where did you go? Now listen up. If you don't find me the Dark Order, don't take your salary for this month." As she spoke, the Demon King Fungus curled her lips and glared at Wang Yu. It was obvious that these words were not only for Chimu Wukai to hear. This little brat knew that Wang Yu and Chimu Wukai seemed to be friends, so she purposely used Chimu Wukai to give Wang Yu a hard time. When Wang Yu saw the Demon King Fungus scolding Chimu Wukai like that, he could not help but feel annoyed. Of course, he was even more surprised. After being in the gaming circle for so long, Wang Yu knew that many guilds had a corporate system. The guild leader was the boss, and the members were the workers. However, this was a civilized society where everyone was treated equally. No matter how amazing a boss was, he was not the master of his employees. Even large guilds like the Blood Alliance, which had a clear system, did not dare to disrespect their employees. There were so many guilds in the game, and they definitely did not lack food. Changing guilds was a small matter, but secretly taking advantage of them was definitely not worth it. Even if Chimu Wukai really did lose the Dark Order, Demon King Fungus scolded her subordinates in front of so many people and even threatened to deduct her salary was a little too much. Moreover, everyone had agreed that it was a paid delivery. She did not pay and even took it out on her employees. How despicable. Thinking up to this point, Wang Yu immediately said unhappily, "Watch your mouth. Don't you know how to respect people? You were the one who agreed that I would get 2,000 gold for delivering the token. What does that have to do with little Wukai?" Hee. Demon King Fungus laughed coldly. "What does it have to do with you that I'm talking to my subordinates? 2,000 gold is nothing. Little Wukai, you were the one who lost the Dark Order, so you don't mind deducting it from your salary, right?" Hearing Demon King Fungus's words, Chimu Wukai's ferocious face immediately revealed a panicked expression. At the same time, a cross appeared on Wang Yu's forehead. This Demon King Fungus looked like a child. How could he be so vicious? He was clearly forcing Wang Yu to make a wasted trip. If it were anyone else in Chuanjin, they would definitely turn around and leave without looking back. However, Wang Yu was a kind-hearted person. He had also experienced life without money, and he knew how important a month's salary was to the lowest level of ordinary players. Although he was a little saintly, Wang Yu still felt guilty that he had caused Chimu Wukai to waste a month's worth of work. "You win." Wang Yu glared at Demon King Fungus. He took out the Dark Order and handed it over. Seeing that Wang Yu was forced to compromise, Demon King Fungus revealed a hint of joy on his face. Just as he was about to take the token, he suddenly heard a voice. "City Lord Tai, please wait. How much did you say the Dark Order was worth?" Hearing this, Wang Yu hurriedly put away the Dark Order and turned around. He saw a handsome-looking elven assassin walking over from the side. Before Wang Yu could reply, Demon King Fungus suddenly shouted, "Heaven's secrets, it's you again, you bastard. Why do you have to make things difficult for a 1,000-wave temple?" Heaven's secret sneered. "You ugly monster, you don't follow the rules and morals just because you're a woman. You want to blame us for making things difficult for you? Don't you have any shame?" Bosom friend, although the Secret Pavilion was not necessarily a good organization, Heaven's Secret's words had struck a chord in Wang Yu's heart. At this moment, Wang Yu looked at Heaven's Secrets with a look of approval, as if he regretted not having met Heaven's Secrets earlier. "TSK. Demon King Fungus sneered. "What? This Dark Order is something that our 1,000-wave temple painstakingly obtained. We're just returning it to its rightful owner. How are you breaking the rules?" In response to Demon King Fungus's rebuttal, Heaven's Secrets pointed at Wang Yu and said calmly, "City Lord Tai is very busy every day. He came all the way here to deliver the token to you. Not only did you not fulfill your promise, but you even tried to use your theory to make City Lord Tai come here for nothing. How despicable." Chapter 11:26. Wang Yu was speechless when he heard Secret Seer's words. No wonder this brat spoke so pompously. He had an ulterior motive. However, this was fine. Wang Yu had been reluctant to hand over the darkness decree to the Demon King Fungus. Now that Secret Seer was here to stir things up, Wang Yu was secretly delighted. After all, no matter how unreasonable the Demon King Fungus was, the one causing trouble was Secret Seer. She couldn't possibly vent her anger on Hitaki, could she? Wang Yu was more than happy to watch them fight. In any case, no matter what the outcome was, he would not be the one to suffer. You, what do you mean? Sure enough, when Secret Seer interfered, the Demon King Fungus's originally green face almost turned dark green. She pointed at Secret Seer, so angry that she was speechless. Secret Seer smiled and said, "What else can it mean? The highest bidder wins. It's not like you don't have money. Are you trying to save it for milk?" As he spoke, Secret Seer deliberately swept a glance at the chests of the 1,000-wave temple players, a playful expression on his face. Secret Seer's mouth was quite vicious. The Demon King Fungus dressed like a child and recruited a group of such subordinates. She indeed looked like a child who lacked love in his childhood. His words struck at the Demon King Fungus's heart. The Demon King Fungus also seemed to care about others attacking it. When she heard Secret Seer's words, she jumped up and down like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. She cursed, "Mother asterisk her, your whole family is dead." This is getting more and more interesting. Wang Yu crossed his arms and watched the two bickering players with interest, a look of gossip on his face. "Umph." Secret Seer sneered disapprovingly and said, "How about it, City Lord Iron? 3,000 gold is very sincere, right? MHM not bad." Wang Yu rubbed his chin and nodded. In any case, the Darkness Decree did not belong to him. Selling it for 3,000 gold was as good as picking it up from the ground. "Then how about selling it to me?" Secret Seer asked. Well, Wang Yu hesitated for a moment. Hitaki had given him a 50-50 chance of getting the Darkness Decree. If he sold the Darkness Decree just like that, Hitaki would most likely be in trouble again. Wang Yu didn't care how the two of them bickered, but it wasn't good to involve innocent people. However, it was clear that Demon King Fungus had overestimated Hitaki's position in Wang Yu's heart. Just as Wang Yu was feeling troubled, Demon King Fungus pointed at Wang Yu and cursed, "You dare? Well, it would have been better if the Devil King Fungus didn't say this." Once it said this, Wang Yu's temper also rose. To move unhindered for decades, Wang Yu had never been afraid of anyone. How could he let a little brat threaten him? Wasn't it just a deduction of his salary and losing his job? Everyone in Xuanzhen was overflowing with wealth, and they didn't mind supporting one more person. Why wouldn't I dare? Wang Yu snorted coldly and tossed the Darkness Decree to Secret Seer. Secret Seer did not expect Wang Yu to be so straightforward. After catching the Darkness Decree, his expression froze. Then he took out a pouch of money and handed it to Wang Yu. At this moment, a white light flashed, and Unfathomable appeared at the resurrection point. Seeing the Darkness Decree in Secret Seer's hand, Unfathomable rushed over in a panic and said, "Boss, you can't take this." The Secret of Heaven was stunned when he heard this. Before he could react, he saw the Devil King Fungus reveal a treacherous smile. Then, he took out a dark decree that was exactly the same as the one in the Secret of Heaven's hand and threw it at the Secret of Heaven's feet. Bang! The Darkness Decree landed on the ground, and a cloud of black fog rose. At the same time, the Darkness Decree in Secret Seer's hand cracked. Immediately after, the space around Secret Seer distorted. Secret Seer, Unfathomable, who had rushed over to grab Secret Seer's wrist, Wang Yu, who was taking Secret Seer's money pouch, and Hitaki, who was leaning close to Wang Yu, split apart. The space under their feet cracked at the same time. Wang Yu reacted quickly and instinctively wanted to jump away. However, the distorted space was like a huge hand grabbing onto Wang Yu. Wang Yu, who had already jumped up, was directly dragged to the ground. Together with the other three, they were sucked into the space vortex and disappeared before everyone's eyes. F***CK. You scared me. How long are you going to hide? You're clearly an assassin, and yet you're hiding so far back. No wonder you're called Rat. Seeing the four of them disappear, the Devil King Fungus wiped off his cold sweat and cursed at the back of the crowd, not far away. You've worked hard. Just at this moment, an assassin appeared behind the crowd of spectators. With a face full of smiles, he said, "You don't know, but that Iron Bull is very strange. Even if you hide yourself, he still knows where you are." The assassin was short and had a wretched smile. His eyes were shining, and his dagger was sheathed at his waist. If Wang Yu had not disappeared, he would definitely have recognized this assassin. This kid was the boss of the 12 constellations, Z Shu. Bullsh asterisk T. He's still locked up now. Demon King Fungus looked at the place where Wang Yu disappeared and angrily gave him the middle finger. Then he asked Rat, "Where's my brother?" "He's here. The boss said that you'll be the first to get credit for this," Zishu said with a smile. "That kid got lucky. I spent so much money on the Dark Decree, but he used it." Tisich, Demon King Fungus said disdainfully. "That's a level 80 dungeon. With just a few of them, they probably won't be able to get out in this lifetime." Rat sighed. "Young man, your brother thought the same way back then. So you know what happened to him? I'll be satisfied if this dungeon can lock that guy up for 2 days, let alone a lifetime." Fine. Look at you. You'll scare yourself to death again." Demon King Fungus once again curled his lips in disdain. The space distorted in an instant. Wang Yu and the others felt the scene in front of them change, and they arrived at an unfamiliar place. At the same time, the four of them received a system notification. "You have discovered the evil Demon Dominic's lair challenge. Obtain 5,000 EXP. System notification. You have accepted the dungeon quest, Fall of Dominic challenge. Quest level, S. Mission introduction. The evil dragon Dominic is an outstanding descendant of the dragon tribe. Due to his obsession with dark magic and the power of eternal life, Dominic abandoned the pride of the dragon tribe and turned himself into an undead. He then became a disciple of the great elder under the 7th apostle of the dark faction, the Dark Church's representative, Great Necromancer Turin, to learn undead magic. The evil dragon Dominic, who is proficient in both dragon and undead magic, has unfathomable strength. It is said that the disappearance of the Great Necromancer Turin is related to Dominic. Quest requirement: kill the evil dragon Dominic 0 to 1. Quest hint: Dominic is proficient in undead magic and has an almost immortal body. Note: this dungeon is a challenge. Please find more helpers and act within your capabilities. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences. If it affects your gaming experience, the game company reserves the right to explain. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.